are the eyes of Mario Andretti, Indianapolis 500 champion. Your eyes may see 33 race cars roaring around the speedway every Memorial Day weekend. But these eyes have seen and lived the race for the past 4 decades. When these eyes were 25 years young, they were wide and probing as they saw for the first time the speedway history and tradition. The first time on the track, the rookie test, then the Speedway's 49th Indianapolis 500. Today, they'll again see the Speedway's time-honored traditions of fanfare and spectacle. Mario Andretti's eyes have seen the huge crowds that flock to the Speedway each year. Today, they'll scan a crowd of over 500,000 people. The eyes are the windows to the soul. These eyes reveal the very core of a man who has raced in 28 Indy 500s. Here is a man who has won at Daytona, who has been crowned the Formula One champion, and his personal pinnacle, a win at Indy. But that was a quarter of a century ago. Since then, he's won races and championships. But these eyes have too often seen the frustrations of driving the Brickyard. Even Mario's eyes stared in disbelief from within the bizarre wreck at the start at 82. A moment that ignited the fiery Andretti passion. These eyes have followed the march of technology in racing. They first peered out of this car in 1965. He won in this car 4 years later. Today, they'll look out of the cockpit of a racing machine that seems futuristic. With technology, Mario's eyes have adapted to the increases in speed, 170 miles an hour at first. Today, 240 miles an hour on the straightaway. These are the wizened eyes of the Andretti patriarch. The apple of his eye is son Michael, who has raced at the front of the pack at Indy, wheel to wheel with Rick Mears in 1991. But it was Mears who won the race, and Michael Andretti has yet to win at Indianapolis. These eyes have winced at the brutal realities of the Speedway's dangers. His own son, Jeff, mangled in this horrifying crash. These eyes watching helplessly. And Mario himself has been bitten by this dangerous arena. 1992, this was turn 4, as he saw it. These are the eyes of America's most famous racer. Eyes that have guided Mario Andretti through thrilling days at the Brickyard. They saw the checkered flag of victory in '69. They saw an appeals court overturn his apparent second win 6 months after the race in 1981. Danny Sullivan spun right before these very eyes and then went on to win the race from Mario in 1985. He has driven in the races that were decided by the closest finishes in Indy history. 1982, Gordon Johncock and Rick Mears separated at the finish by the blink of an eye. And 2 years ago, Al Unser Jr. and Scott Goodyear, less than a car length apart. Today, these eyes will peer out of the visor at Indianapolis for the final time. Next year and beyond, the race will be run without Mario Andretti in one of the 33 cars. These eyes will be outside, looking in. And although these eyes remain fierce and proud, these eyes may shed tears at the end of his final Indy. Mario has lived to race, to drive the Indianapolis 500. For it will always be the greatest spectacle in racing in the eyes of Mario Andretti. Live from the world's greatest race course, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, ABC Sports presents the 78th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. It's an enormous crowd, the largest single-day crowd in sports that since 5 o'clock this morning has been filling this, the world's largest stadium. The track is alive with fanfare and festival. But back in the garage area, there is a quiet before the storm. Mario Andretti's eyes are 54 years old now. They have witnessed so much change. Mario watched Andy Granatelli bring the turbine-powered cars here in '67 and '68, only to fail in the last laps. Will he witness something similar today with that new Mercedes-Benz engine? How will the new power plants perform in the hands of Roger Penske's drivers, Paul Tracy, Emerson Fittipaldi, who starts outside the front row, and the pole sitter, Al Unser Jr.?
Paul, there's more than a new engine for Al Unser Jr. this year. The retirement of his father earlier this month has firmly planted the Unser Indianapolis 500 racing legacy upon this man's shoulders. He doesn't seem to be too concerned about it as he rests in his motorhome. In fact, he says he won't go to the garage area for another 10 minutes.
Since the first Indy 500 back in 1911, 599 men and 2 women have driven the race. One of those women is running today, Lynn St. James. She had a massage last night, slept well, has been reading letters from well-wishers. It's her 3rd Indy, and she's ready.
Within the hour, 24-year-old rookie driver Brian Herta will start his first ever IndyCar race. At present, he appears remarkably relaxed, due primarily to comfort from his legendary car owner, A.J. Foyt.
Bobby Rahal remembers all too vividly the bitter disappointment of 1993 when he was bumped from the field for the first time in his career. But the despair of '93 now forgotten, a giant sense of relief. Bobby Rahal stretches out, relaxes in the solitude of his garage, knowing that he has a great opportunity today, and he fully believes that they may come up with a stunning upset.
Well, the focus here is now narrowing to the drivers and the cars. The machines are already in place. There are blue Indiana skies above. The weather is perfect. Welcome to Indianapolis. I'm Paul Page, and I can't remember a 500 that has generated so many questions. Can Roger Penske overcome the uncertainty of his new Mercedes-Benz engine and score his 10th Indy win? His drivers, Al Unser Jr., Emerson Fittipaldi, and Paul Tracy, have had the fastest straightaway speeds this month. Will one of the 9 first-time drivers, one of the most experienced rookie groups ever, duplicate the last rookie win here, Graham Hill, in 1966? Lynn St. James starts from the 2nd row. 3 times wins have come from her starting position. 15 of the drivers are foreign-born, nearly half of the field. And then there is Mario. At age 54, he's the oldest driver, 20 years older than the average age in the starting field. But in the final practice, he was fastest by nearly a mile an hour. Now, to help you pick a winner, we've broken the field down into groups based on their track records. The drivers who would be happy just finishing, the rookie class, the new breed ready to win, and the champions. Here are the champions in the 500, proven winners. They have the equipment, and they know the way to the checkered flag. The dean of winners is Mario Andretti, who starts 9th. In his career, he scored 52 wins, the most of any active driver. The car that he drives today is a quantum leap from his '69 winner. There is an extra incentive to win today. This is his final 500. His goodbye is part of a tour called Arrivederci Mario. For Bobby Rahal, a long month of May. He was bumped from the field and requalified in a car he obtained from Roger Penske. In '86, he drove for Jim Truman, who passed away several days after the race. Bobby is the co-owner of the car he drives. Last year's pole sitter and 2nd place finisher Arie Luyendyk starts this year's race from the center of the 3rd row. He drives with a new team, Indy Regency Racing. He won here in 1990. Starting outside row 1, Emerson Fittipaldi attempts to become the first man since Al Unser 23 years ago to win back-to-back Indy 500s. In '89, he clashed with Unser's son with 2 laps to go. That confrontation sent little Al to the sidelines and Emo to the Speedway's first $1 million win and a cold drink of milk in victory lane. Last year's victory was less dramatic until he drank orange juice in winner's circle. Al Unser Jr. hopes to use his Mercedes-powered Penske to win his 2nd 500. He won the first 2 years ago. It was the closest finish ever. 2 weeks ago, Little Al became the fastest qualifier in the field, taking his first Indianapolis pole to the delight of his dad and his car owner, Roger Penske. Big Al's likeness appears 4 times on the Borg-Warner Trophy. Little Al's just once. But Grandpa and Dad are already preparing a face for the next century, Mini Al. With the retirement this month of greats like Johnny Rutherford and Al Unser, these 5 former winners account for only 6 previous wins.
And young Al Unser Jr. is giving some suggestions to his father, the older Al Unser Jr. But, Al, what would a 2nd victory today mean to you?
Well, you know, it'd mean everything to us. You know, this is what we live for, is the Indy 500, and now I'm with the best team out there with the Marlboro Team Penske, and so we're just we're waiting for the time to go by to get dressed and go out there and have a good, safe race is what's important.
Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Well, Jack, Mario Andretti has just gotten changed into his driver's uniform. Mario, we're all curious. Are the emotions any different now as you get ready for your 29th and final opportunity to win this race at Indy?
Well, yes, they are different to some degree, of course. Seems like I'm getting a little more attention, and which is, I think, very nice. But as far as approaching the race and everything else, the same basic anxieties and the same basic goals. You know, you just go in there and hope for a great result and come away, as I say, happy.
I'll tell you what, one of the great ambassadors of all time, getting ready for this final attempt. We wish you well. We go to Jerry Punch.
Emerson Fittipaldi, given the torque and straightaway speed of the Mercedes engine, along with the warm climate, you concerned at all about tire wear?
Well, I think the tire wear is going to be a concern for everybody. But I mean, we've done a lot of miles, a lot of testing. I'm really confident. The weather's nice. I mean, it's a beautiful day today.
Confident, Emerson Fittipaldi. Paul?
Out on the straightaway, celebrities now being introduced. The engines will start in just over 39 minutes.
Jason Bateman from the Hogan family.
We're back live at Indianapolis, where Roger Penske is the winningest owner in Speedway history. He has a reputation for bold, successful moves. Much of the news this month has been the introduction of new Mercedes-Benz engine by Roger Penske. Sam Posey is at the Penske garage.
Well, Paul, the Mercedes stirred controversy because it was built to different rules than most of the other engines in this race. These rules, on the books since 1992, were written to encourage engines similar to those in passenger cars. Now, this engine is completely legal, but it is not intended for passenger cars. It's intended for this race only. Now, other engines have been built to these rules, including one that holds the track record here, but they have been chronically unreliable, had a tough time finishing the race. Now, Roger Penske, your team has won 8 of the last 15 Indy 500s. Your cars have been running very well with your regular Ilmor engines. Why go to the trouble and the risk of a special engine for this race?
Well, I think, Sam, when we looked at the track last year and the change in configuration, that we took the warm-up lane out where people could run below the line in order to make speed through the corners. You need torque in this race to pass on the straightaways. We had long lines. They've closed the pits, so the racing strategy is different, and we think that the new Mercedes-Benz engine will give us that advantage on race day.
Why develop the engine and test it in complete secrecy? You really put one over on the racing establishment.
Well, when you're competing in the biggest race in the world, you don't give your competition your drawings of what you're going to do.
Well, good luck to you today. Back to you, Paul.
Roger represents experience here. He knows the secrets of an Indy win. To a brand new driver, though, Indy is intimidating. Let's continue our look at the field. While they're called rookies here, the new drivers are veterans and champions from other series. Mauricio Gugelmin is a 5-year veteran of Formula One. At home in Brazil, he is a TV commercial star advertising poultry, a product he not only sells, but can cook skillfully with a little pasta. Brian Till brings a degree from Baylor University and Indy Lights experience to his first 500. He'll try and make his mark in a year-old car. Dennis Vitolo makes his first Indy 500 start after racing in the series for over 6 years. He and his wife Corinne mortgaged all they own so Dennis can race. To the inside of Vitolo in the 14th position sits his teammate Hideshi Matsuda. Last year, Matsuda was at his first Indy, not as a driver, but a pit announcer for Japanese television. Adrian Fernandez is driving for the same Rick Gallis team that orchestrated the 1992 victory. Mexico's Fernandez starts in one of the new Renard chassis. Scott Sharp, the 2-time Trans Am champion, is making his second start on an oval track. A successful qualifying effort here was rewarded with a 3-year contract signed at the end of the run. Brazilian Marco Greco was more than happy to pose for the official pictures as the last man to make the field of 33, the 6th qualifier for owner Dick Simon. Slowest rookie qualifier, Brian Herta, driving for A.J. Foyt, had to endure a nail-biting final day of qualifying in order to secure his 22nd starting position. Brian is accustomed to winning. He's the reigning Indy Lights champion. Starting from inside the second row, the fastest rookie qualifier ever, Jacques Villeneuve, holds the best starting position for a rookie since Teo Fabi sat on the pole in 1983. There are 9 rookies in the field, not the largest group by far. In 1919, there were 19.
Not only is Jacques Villeneuve the fastest rookie in the field. He is the youngest driver in the field. And we're wondering now, for your first Indy 500, what are your expectations?
Well, hopefully we'll be in the top 10. I'm very confident in the team. They did a great job the whole month, and I know they're there to win and they're ready to win. I'm a rookie still, and the only rookie in the whole team, so I got to be realistic and just take it easy and finish the race.
Another famed second-generation driver about to try it here at Indy, Paul.
Here is Scott Sharp, one of the rookies, getting his first glimpse of this giant crowd as he walks out into the pit area. And then Robbie Gordon, who was a rookie here last year, and he took the lead of the race at one point. His background is off-road racing, much like four-time winner Rick Mears, who won his first race in his second start.
What is it?
In 1985, Danny Sullivan won here after his famous spin in front of Mario. For the past 10 years, he's watched from the cockpit. Today, he'll watch from a tower high over turn 4. He joins us as part of our broadcast team, so we welcome you, Danny Sullivan.
Thank you, Paul. Back in the garage area, there's 33 very nervous drivers, and they all handle it differently. Some of the guys, they have to go to the restroom a lot. Some of them are pacing, and a few of them are even taking naps. Now imagine that they have only driven the car one time in the last week. That was on Thursday. They're going to go out, do 3 warm-up laps, and then they're going to go for the green in the greatest spectacle on earth. That's like comparing it to going to the U.S. Open, having 1 day of practice 3 days ago, taking 3 practice swings, and teeing it up.
Well, as Danny Sullivan suggests, to start the 500 is the top line in many drivers' portfolios. Keeping that in mind, let's continue our look at the starting field. 10 drivers have limited success in Indy cars. To be a starter here is a personal victory. Roberto Guerrero starts in the same car in which he set the 1- and 4-lap records back in 1992. A miscue in the pits cost him a victory in the '87 race, but he still finished second. Just 4 months later, a testing crash almost ended his life. He never got a chance to show what this car was capable of in '92, with cold weather conditions contributing to a pace lap accident that ended his day. Mike Robb starts from the 31st position. He hopes this unfamiliar chassis he has tested for less than a week leads to the same success as those more familiar ones he drove early in his career. John Paul Jr. missed last year's race. He won a 500-mile IndyCar race at Michigan in '83 in a close finish over Rick Mears. Scott Brayton has the second highest number of Indy 500 starts among active drivers with 12. The former one-lap record holder has spent years developing the Buick engine that powers his car. Hiro Matsushita starts his third Indy 500 from the outside of row 6 in a Lola Ford Cosworth. But he is lucky to be starting at all after surviving this terrible crash at Phoenix. Even though his car was cut in half, Hiro walked away with a dislocated shoulder. To Hiro's left on the inside of row 6, 1992's fastest rookie qualifier, Jimmy Vasser. He drives a Renard Ford, a far cry from the car he started in at age 6, 22 years ago. Stan Fox qualified for the inside of row 5 in this car after it was delayed in construction, and he was only able to take 4 practice laps before qualifying. Fox is one of the few drivers who made it to Indy by running in the sprints and midgets, sometimes with spectacular results. Starting his 7th consecutive 500 from outside the 4th row, German-born Dominic Dobson stands a good chance to improve on his best finish of 12th from '92. Former front row starter Eddie Cheever is in the middle of row 4 today in a car in which he practiced at over 231 miles an hour in testing here last November. Lynn St. James will make her 3rd Indianapolis start from the outside of row 2. Lynn has earned her way to the front of the Indy grid by perseverance as a driver and by surviving crashes such as this in IMSA GTP at Riverside in 1986. The accident was frightening, but Lynn was not injured in the fire. Her debut at Indy was 1992 when she was named Rookie of the Year. But the highlight of her racing career was this qualifying run 2 weeks ago that put Lynn in the field ahead of Nigel Mansell, Mario Andretti, and Bobby Rahal in another one of Dick Simon's 6 entries. These 10 aspiring drivers account for 48 Indy 500 starts, 2 second places, but no wins.
Lynn St. James, earlier this month, you turned heads around the world with your impressive qualifying performance to start outside of row 2. Realistically now, what are your expectations here today?
I
just want us to have a really good, clean, safe race. I want to have the best race of my life, and may the best team win. May the best team be there. I hope we're there, but I just want it to be safe and clean, and I want to do everything I can do.
As it says on the uniform, she does indeed epitomize the spirit of the American woman. Jack?
Jerry, a man is getting a thrill of a lifetime this morning in the garage area. Tim Allen, the star of the ABC hit comedy Home Improvement, finally getting to sit in a race car. Tim, why do you come to Indianapolis?
The food. The food here, that trickle-down chili is great. What do you think I come here to Indianapolis? What kind of idiot are you anyway? You're sweating, aren't you? You're awfully nervous, aren't you? There are people yelling at you in the booth, get him in and get him out. That's all we got to do, huh? I came here because there's a big golf match today. So I thought I'd drive over here. I bought this car. This is a Sears catalog car. You can get anything in the Sears catalog and you build it yourself. Al and I put this together. Well, actually, Al did it. But we're going to be, we're 34th, waiting for Nige to bow out. I made him tuna fish this morning, though. Left the mayonnaise out a little too long, so we're expecting any minute now. Boy, he'll be darting back and forth between here and the pits.
Gee, Tim, we'd like to talk to you a little bit longer, but you've gone over time, so let's go back to the tower.
I think he knows you very well, Jackaroot. 25 minutes now until the start of the engines as Ari Lyondike waves to the crowd. Downtown Indianapolis from the Goodyear Blimp Spirit. This is the 70th year that Goodyear Blimps have covered the nation's top sporting events. Now, let's continue our look at the starting field. 9 drivers have scored wins in the top levels of racing and are contenders for the 500. They have the speed and the savvy to win. Scott Goodyear will start 33rd for the second time in 3 years because a teammate sacrificed his spot in the field. But the other time it happened, Goodyear drove from 33rd to 2nd in the closest 500 finish in history. Stefan Johansson makes his second Indy 500 start from the outside of row 9. Last year, this Swedish driver was the highest starting rookie and drove a steady race to finish 11th. The young Canadian Paul Tracy will be starting his third 500 for Roger Penske in one of only 3 cars powered by the potent Mercedes-Benz engine. Paul prepares for the racing season by riding through the rough terrain on his mountain bike. But he didn't expect this rough terrain when on the day before pole qualifying, he took a hard shot into the wall. An overnight stay in the hospital cost Tracy a chance at the pole. That's why he starts from the inside of row 9. As a rookie in '83, Teo Fabi qualified on the pole. Today, he starts from the outside of the 8th row, driving for Jim Hall, an owner with 2 previous 500 wins in '78 and in '80. As a rookie last year, Robbie Gordon led the Indy 500. This year, he starts from inside the 7th row and hopes that his ride is much smoother than the long-distance off-road races he's won. Robbie is now the lead driver for the Derek Walker IndyCar team. The nephew of Mario and godson of his car owner A.J. Foyt, John Andretti makes his 7th 500 start from inside row 4. John is a versatile driver, accustomed to high speed. Last year, he was winning matches in a top-fuel dragster. Last Saturday night, driving car 14, he was involved in this spectacular multi-car accident while racing a stock car at Charlotte Motor Speedway. When today's 500 is over, he'll fly to Charlotte and race another 600 miles. One of Nigel Mansell's few remaining goals in racing is to win the Indy 500. He begins his quest today from inside row 3. Last year, he was named Rookie of the Year and almost won the race. But his lack of experience showed on this restart with 16 laps to go, as he fell to 3rd behind Fittipaldi and Lyondike. But he learns fast, winning 5 other races in the series to take the PPG Cup as series champion. Starting from the inside of row 2, Michael Andretti looks to add to the 337 laps he has led at Indy. Michael missed last year's 500 due to participation in Formula One. But he came back to the Indy cars just as he left, with an aggressive driving style, driving hard, and winning his return to the series in the season opener in Australia. Raul Boesel firmly believed that the Indy 500 was taken away from him last year because of 2 penalties assessed during the race. This year, he looks to avenge that loss from the middle of the front row. At his American home in Miami, he plays basketball with his son, Raul Jr. In his homeland of Brazil, he is an accomplished show horse jumper. These 9 have proven their skills everywhere but Indy, and each feels today that could change.
Well, Raul, 2 stop-and-go penalties in last year's race. You say that cost you the Indy 500. When do you put all that on the shelf?
Well, I think already last year I have a big support from the fans. You can see it, and this is a big motivation for me, and that was put behind, and let's see what we can do this year.
Good luck today. Let's check in with Gary Gerald. Gary?
Still back in the garage area, Nigel Mansell. Nigel, the lessons learned last year as a rookie, how will it help you in this race today?
To say hello to my children first, Chloe, Leo, and Greg, and hi, Mum. Yeah, I mean, I'm more comfortable. I haven't got any pain in my back this year, and, you know, a lot of experience underneath the belt, and I'm very comfortable with that.
And we must ask you, because the whole world wants to know, are you planning to go back to Formula One after Indianapolis?
I beg your pardon?
I think that says an awful lot. A loud volume from Nigel Mansell. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Michael Andretti, after a year's absence, what would it mean for you to win today in your dad's final 500?
Well, obviously it'd be really special, and you know, I know if Dad can't win it, he'd want me to do it, and you know, if we could do that, that would be a huge moment.
One of the pre-race favorites, Michael Andretti. Paul?
Paul Tracy heads out to the pit area, ready to start in the Indy 500. We'll be back. Mario Andretti, as he now makes his way from the garage area to his final Indy 500. What incredible memories and thoughts must be going through this man's mind here today. Been 25 years, a quarter of a century since his last win. And the fans still love him. Around the globe, the name Andretti is racing. Now, Bobby Unser this year will be watching from a position over the corporate suites at Turn 2. A great view of Turn 2 and the backstretch. Bobby, what about Mario Andretti? Can he win it?
Paul, he's always capable of winning, and he certainly is deserving another one.
What do you think of the what happens in a driver's mind? What goes on when you arrive here at a track, Bobby?
Well, you know, for example, the first thing I used to do when I came here is look at the clouds and the wind and the sun. For example, if the sun shines on the track, it heats up the surface and the rubber from the tires, making it very slippery. And often when you hear the drivers complaining on television that the track is slippery, this is what it means.
Bobby, how does the heat affect the cars themselves?
Well, if it's hot, they'll be instructed, the drivers, to turn up the fuel consumption, which to help cool the engines. Now, this could cause some fuel mileage problems, and especially for the fast cars.
So, Bobby, how do you think the Mercedes-Benz will do?
Well, remember one thing, Paul, the Mercedes engines have never been tested in a race or at temperatures as hot as we think it's going to be today. Also, because of their added horsepower, they're going to be a little bit harder on the tires. But without these problems, I think they're going to be untouchable. And remember, this is still the toughest 500 miles in racing, so anything can happen.
All right, Bobby Unser. Mario is now joined by his son Michael as they move out from the alleyway back to the garages and is in the pit area. And there is Al Unser Jr. The best start he's ever had here has been 5th. He's won once, and today he starts on the pole. The clock continues to count as Bobby Rahal waits to get back in the 500. It's just over 12 minutes until the engines start. Robbie Gordon is ready.
Letterman never misses an Indianapolis 500. In fact, he's close friends with Bobby and Debbie Rahal. The drivers are beginning to get in their cars, and a man who knows what they're going through is Danny Sullivan. Danny?
Jack, this is one of the most critical times for the drivers. They have to shut out the well-wishers, the family, the fans, and the sponsors. And they've got to reacquaint themselves with the cockpit. This is a time when they got to shut all that you see behind me out of there. And for 9 rookies, that is very difficult because this scene they have never experienced before. Jack?
There's less than 10 minutes before the field of 33 here come to life. You can feel the anticipation as a crowd of over 500,000 assemble to wish these 33 fastest men in the world, as we look at Mario Andretti, the view that he will have for the final time inside a race car here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Who would have thought back in 1969 that he would come into his retirement year with only 1 victory at the Brickyard? The huge crowd is seen from the Goodyear blimp circling the 2.5-mile facility as we prepare for the festivities. Michael Andretti Coming back from Formula One, Emerson Fittipaldi, the defending champion of this Indianapolis 500. Will he be able to score back-to-back victories today? Mercedes power plant beneath that Team Penske automobile. He finds himself on the outside of that row. Florence Henderson, a veteran of TV, film, and Broadway, prepares for her rendition of the national anthem. Let's go to the public address system.
Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the golden voice of Florence Henderson. She joins the Purdue All-American Band. The presentation of colors as we salute the United States of America with our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave o'er the land of the free and the home of
The full-speed Quintons were minutes away from the command to start engines. We'll return after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
On this, the Memorial Day weekend, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway pauses in its formal ceremonies before the start of the engines to honor those who have sacrificed their lives in the defense of the United States in war.
Sport.
Years ago, 1944, the P-51 Mustang destroyed the German Air Force in the skies over Europe. The formation you just saw, P-51s, led by General Chuck Yeager, who shot down 13 German aircraft in 1944, 5 during one mission. General Yeager, no stranger to the Speedway. He's driven the pace car in 1986 and 88. He was the first pilot to fly faster than the sound in the Bell X-1 in 1947. Flying with General Yeager, Tom Woods, Paul Romine, and Brad Hood. The P-51s, a salute from them, a reminder of 50 years ago.
Race fans, on this day we gather together with friends and family from around the world. It's so nice to be back home again in Indiana. Please welcome our dear friend, Jim Neighbors. Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still burning bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends out its fragrance through the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the water, how I long for my Indiana home. Jim Neighbors. We move control now to the front row, and the voice of Jim Philippi.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are at that time of the day for the command that will start the 78th running of this event. And here to give the traditional forewords is Chairman Emeritus of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Board, Mrs. Mary Fendrick Holman.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
The waiting has come to an end. The engines are started on the straightaway at Indianapolis. The crews with one final check. Onboard camera of Robbie Gordon's car. Let's go down. Jerry Punch.
A.J. Foyt, what advice have you offered your rookie driver who's about to make his first ever Indy start?
I told him watch you start for 4 or 5 laps and we'll race for 400 miles on.
If anyone knows how to get the job done here at Indy, it is A.J. Foyt. Paul?
A.J. will be driving one of the parade cars here today. The pace car itself will be driven by the great Parnelli Jones. Here's the onboard camera on the nose of Bobby Rahall's car. How do you like that? Now here's Gary Gerald.
A 4-time Indy 500 winner, Rick Mears, this field about ready to move. Your concerns about the reliability of this new power plant to go 500 miles?
Well, the Mercedes has been running very well all month. You know, we knock on wood, we're keeping our fingers crossed that we can get the full 500 miles in. We've made it with some test motors, so you know, hopefully these will make it. And we just need to run all day, work the traffic, and spend the first half getting to the second half, and then we'll see.
We still miss you not being out there on the racetrack, Rick.
Thank you very much.
All right, let's go to Jack.
As the cars pull away, Dick Simon, you've got 6 cars in the field. Where are you going to work in which pit today?
Well, I'll be down in the Duracell pit in J.C. Penney's Berlin, and actually up and down like crazy. We're just really proud to have 6 cars in the show. It's the greatest show in the world.
Did you tell Raul anything about the first lap? Who's going to lead it?
I told him not to back off at all because all month the Mercedes have been going slow through the corner.
Well, all right, one car with a problem. John Andretti. They have not yet started that car despite the fact the rest of the field has pulled away. And now they'll push the car. Yep, there he goes. They got him started. Raul Boisel as he pulls forward on the line. 500 miles, 200 laps, the race record held by Arie Luyendyk as we look at the Valvoline race analysis. The first fuel stop expected, barring yellows, at 25 laps. Field on the backstretch. The weather here today, the track temperature up to 112 degrees, but it should be one magnificently beautiful day here in Indianapolis. Not a cloud in the sky. Here's Jack Arute.
Well, Paul, there's been major changes on pit road. First of all, the signaling area that was once 11 feet, it's narrowed down to 5 feet. A new concrete retaining barrier on the outside to brand new asphalt lanes of racing on pit road. Then the concrete where the cars will be serviced. That resulted in an additional 6 feet for the crews. The crews have a brand new toy as well. They'll be able to keep up to date on the standings and the lap speeds with this handheld video pager.
We have in-car cameras all over the place. This one looking over the right-hand shoulder of Nigel Mansell, hoping not to make the rookie mistakes of last year. On Michael Andretti's car, look at this. Is this a great new angle? In this field, an assortment of chassis led by Lola. Renard with 7, the 93 Lola 6. Those 94 Penske's are something to keep an eye on. And then what about the engines in the field? Dominated by the Ford Cosworth XB, 7 Ilmor Indy V8s, and of course those 3 Mercedes-Benz that will be the focus of everyone. Let's go to Gary.
Paul, so much has been said, of course, about this controversial Mercedes-Benz power plant, new to this race, new to IndyCar racing. A couple of significant questions still unanswered. Will fuel consumption problems become a concern as this day evolves? And secondly, does it have that reliability, the durability to go 500 miles under race conditions? Now, the 3 Penske drivers think they've answered that emphatically with more than 7,000 miles of testing this month with that new engine. But there are 30 other drivers and teams that really want to know if their fears of a Mercedes dominance have been justified.
On board with Mario Andretti's car in his last Indianapolis 500 as he drives his Arrivederci Tour. And Raul Boesel over his right shoulder, the pace car just ahead. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
All success in motorsports requires commitment and sacrifice, and no one understands that better than rookie Dennis Vitolo and wife Corrine, who have mortgaged their lives and to some extent their future to be here today. Following withdrawal of their primary sponsor, they emptied their savings accounts and leveraged all assets to fulfill their financial obligations to car owner Dick Simon. So for the Vitolos, literally everything rides on their performance here today. Paul?
All right, let's take a look at the 11 rows of 3, the front row. Al Unser Jr., Raul Boesel, and defending champion Emerson Fittipaldi. In row 2, rookie Jacques Villeneuve, Michael Andretti, and Lynn St. James, the 3rd row. Nigel Mansell, Arie Luyendyk, and Mario Andretti. As we saw a puff of smoke off of one of the cars, John Andretti had the car in the wrong gear, couldn't roll away. He has now. Eddie Cheever, Dominic Dobson in the 5th row. Stan Fox, Hideki Masuda, and Dennis Vitolo. In row number 6, Jimmy Vasser, rookie Scott Sharp, and Hiro Masusta. The 7th row, Robbie Gordon, Roberto Guerrero, and rookie Brian Till. In row 8, rookie Brian Herta, Scott Brayton, and Teo Fabi. The 9th row is Paul Tracy, Adrian Fernandez, and Stefan Johansson. The 10th row, former winner Bobby Rahal, rookie Mauricio Gugelmin, and John Paul Jr. And the 11th and final row, Mike Groff, rookie Marco Greco, and Scott Goodyear. Bobby Unser, as we take a look at him, what are you thinking?
Well, Paul, from up where I'm standing, I can really see down the cockpits. Nobody of the drivers are waving to the crowd. It's concentration time. They're doing their last-minute adjustments inside, the last shoulder harness adjustment, checking their gauges, warming the oil slow. They're really in concentration right now.
You're looking on board the pace car. That, of course, is the great Parnelli Jones, the first man to break the 150-mile-an-hour barrier here at Indianapolis. You look out the rear of that car. Let's go high up over turn 4. Here's Danny Sullivan.
Well, let me tell you, this is one of the most nervous times in a driver. You're about to come down and take that green flag. You just don't want to screw up. And some people are thinking about, I got to get a great start, but it's total focus. The crowd, they don't see any of that.
Remember, Danny, that last year Raul Boesel streaked into the lead at the start. He's got a score to settle with this race, and he may be prepared to take every chance to stay ahead of those Mercedes. Moments ago, I was in the garage with him, and crew chief Mo Nunn was telling him the wind is in the same direction as when he qualified, and Dick Simon wants him to lead it if he possibly can.
The cars are on the backstretch now, beginning to align in their familiar rows of 3. They should go green as they come off the 4th and final turn. An empty track behind the pace car as it accelerates. Al Unser Jr. controls the field. A very slow pace at this point. In a few seconds, it will quicken. We hope for a fast start. We pray for a safe start here at Indianapolis.
Paul, I think he's bringing it down slow to get that pace car out of the way, and then he'll gradually build up as they are now. The crowd is going crazy. They're picking up the pace.
Little Al picks up the pace. Raul Boisel drops back just a bit as the field flows toward the green flag now off the fourth and final corner. Dwayne Sweeney has the flag, and the green flag is out. Oh, look at that start. He gave him the green just as they passed underneath. And Little Al jumps to the lead. Aerial bombs fire off over the top of the track to indicate the start of this great race.
Bobby, I couldn't believe that start. They were totally out of line. I could not believe that he gave that as a green start.
Danny, USAC was considering stopping it. Then they decided maybe it was halfway decent. They decided 2 cars were up. Boisel didn't just keep up. But as they went through turn 2, everybody was smooth and in good shape.
Well, and Boisel's dropped back to about 6th spot. He really got pinched in at the start. I'm sure he's fired up.
Al Unser Jr., the first pole sitter to lead the first lap since Rick Mears in 1991. Little Al is in front. He is chased by his teammate, Emerson Fittipaldi. Michael Andretti has moved up and picked up the 3rd position. Then Ari Lyondike. Then Mario Andretti and Eddie Cheever. They're on the backstretch.
This is the Mercedes power that we talked about. They were able to just jump the start and pull away. I reckon they've throttled back a little bit now. No reason to show all their cards right away here in the race.
Well, I don't know if Little Al's doing that. He's doing pretty good, but Emerson is running very conservative, and I think he's got a little understeer in the car because he's already running down on the rumple strips.
Danny, watch for Robbie Gordon of the number 9 Valvoline car. He came through here awfully high, way out of the group.
The first lap run at an average of 206 miles an hour. There are the track speeds, front backstretch and in the turns.
Ordinarily, the Penske team would run each man for himself. This is a special case, and we may see some tactics by the Penske team today.
Al Unser, Big Al, as he watches his son lead the Indianapolis 500 from Mario Andretti's car. As the field strings out now, they've into single file. No one in contest at this moment, though it's still very tight at the front of the field. There's Mario closing on Ari Lyondike. Ari currently sits in 4th.
Ari's doing a tremendous job. You know, he hasn't been that fast all month, but here's a guy that drives very, very well at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Let's take a look at a replay of this start. Now, watch the car that's in the middle of the front row. That's Raul Boisel.
The minute he's pinched in and has to get out of the power, 2 things happen. He loses his speed and he hits the turbulence from the cars right in front of him. Boisel, who'd hoped for such a good start, really moved backwards suddenly.
Actually, Sam, what he's trying to do...
Raul Boisel has been talking to his crew over the radio as he drops back to 9th. Jack Arute, what's he saying?
He was surprised, Paul, when he made that pass, when he lost that front row position. Dick Simon just told me he keyed the mic, and it was dead silence. That move left Raul Boisel speechless as well.
Actually, I think what Boisel was trying to do was to force the 2 Penske drivers to slow down and come back to him.
Well, Bobby, down here, they really pinched him. He had nowhere to go but to back out of it and get out of the gas, and they had a nice, steady build-up, and he just lost it.
Being in the middle is a little rough sometimes on the start, Danny.
That's right.
Eddie Cheever, you see going by, picked up 6 spots on lap 1. So he is a man, the reverse of Boisel. He had a great start and is moving fast.
We'll keep the laps to go up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen as 5 are already into the record book here at Indianapolis, with Al Unser Jr. jumping from the pole and taking the lead and staying there. Eddie Cheever in that bright green car looking very solid as he's carving his way through this field.
Paul, Eddie really got something to prove. He was upset about losing his drive a couple of years ago. This is a one-off deal. He's got Buick power, and he really wants to show well here.
Danny, I said, what's the problem, Eddie? I mean, you haven't had enough chance to practice this year. He said, actually, I've run more at the Speedway than any other year, so he's ready.
So Al Unser Jr. has the lead of this race, and Roger Penske keeps track of him from the pits, as well as his cars of Fittipaldi and Paul Tracy. Paul Tracy has moved up to 21st position since the start. We've got a yellow. We've got a yellow.
Dennis Vitolo running slow there. And something on his nose of his car, hard to tell what it is. Looks just like a stream of paper or tape. Keep an eye on this car. Bobby Unser, Dennis Vitolo is coming your way. Can you get any idea?
I'll take a look at him, Bob, but so far we didn't see anything the lap before. Did he come through here? We really don't see any problems.
He had a quick spin up here in turn 4.
Okay, so Danny Sullivan reports Dennis Vitolo with just a quick spin. Danny, I would suspect that he didn't touch anything at all from the condition of the car.
I didn't see him touch anything. I just saw the end of it and see the little spin marks right there.
All right, let's take a look. We'll see it. Watching for the red car of Vitolo, and there it is. Quick spin and back pointed straight. That's enough to bring out the yellow. Here's another angle of it.
Oh, beautiful spin. That's a Danny Sullivan style spin, but by a man with much less experience. Dennis Vitolo, a rookie who put all his life savings into this race and nearly had him wiped out there.
Well, Sam, he was very, very lucky. It's very seldom that somebody can spin and keep going that good.
Bobby, one of the things that I noticed in watching this tape is he was really trying to pinch the car down very low. His skid started back a little ways, but very low on the track.
And Teo Fabi had a real scare when Vitolo spun in front of him. There's Dennis's wife, Corinne. But he is back in the action. We'll be back. Back in Indianapolis, the green flag has just come out as Mario Andretti continues to keep at the back end of Ari Luyendyk in an ongoing battle for 4th place as they come back to green flag racing. Al Unser Jr. is still the leader, followed by Fittipaldi and then Michael Andretti. We focus on this battle for 4th.
I don't know if you noticed that, Paul, but when he got in there pretty tight on Ari, he lost the front end a little bit. I don't know if he can get right up underneath him because the air is taken away from the front and it washes it out.
All right, let's go to the pits. Jerry Punch.
With all they've mortgaged to get here, Corinne Vitolo nearly lost her future, realizing her husband had just spun up out of turn 4. Now, what he said happened was he was trying to move beneath the car, got down on the rumble strips, and apparently lost it. He's reported the car is okay, his heartbeat coming back down, and he should be fine to continue. Let's check in the pits with Gary Gerald.
Quick report from Nigel Mansell's pit. Apparently at the same time, Villeneuve, who was in front of him, kicked up some debris. The debris hit Mansell in the helmet above the face shield. No damage done, a scare, but he's okay. Now back at race pace.
It's not atypical for Mansell to lie back a little bit in the early stages, particularly of an oval race like this. It does not mean he's running a little wide there, but it does not mean he's uncompetitive. We'll see him make a move, I am confident, soon.
Just ahead of Mansell there is the best battle on the track. Luyendyk, Mario Andretti, now joined by Eddie Cheever. You got a glimpse of Raul Boisel, who is sitting just back behind Nigel Mansell.
It's incredible the way Ari Luyendyk comes alive for the Indy 500. He's won here, he's been second, he's had the pole position. He's really driving a team for a team now with less experience than the team should be doing this well. And one of the reasons for that is that he just doesn't feel the pressure here the way some of the others do.
But I think something we're also seeing here, he's making a move right there. He seems to be the only car that seems to be able to get underneath the other car in front of him. I think they're all having turbulence problems, and the track is very hot.
You know, what's interesting down here in turn 2, Paul, is the different personalities in the driving that we're already seeing. Some of the cars, for example, are clear down, almost touching the grass. Some of them, for example, like Robbie Gordon, are out in the gray and working a high group. So what this means is we're going to have a wider group today than we've normally had.
You look back from Mario Andretti's car as he just flew underneath. The Bobby Unser is now on the long backstretch, continuing his pursuit of Ari Luyendyk, who is 9 seconds behind the leader of the race, Al Unser Jr.
And little Al is now starting to get into his lap traffic. He's going to lap his first couple of cars, so we're going to see how he does there.
So there is Nigel Mansell continuing his pursuit from 7th place. 13 laps are complete, and Al Unser Jr. has led every one of them, including through our first yellow flag. We'll be back. We're back at Indianapolis watching Al Unser Jr. as he carves his way through this field now. Already overhauling the back of the field. He's been around Brian Till and Dennis Vitolo. And if what they wanted to do with the Mercedes-Benz engine is run away from the field, he's certainly trying that here.
Well, one of the tactical scenarios for Team Penske was to have a rabbit in the race. And look at Little Al. They obviously have chosen Little Al to be that rabbit. But that's surprising because the book on Little Al is he starts the race slow and moves up faster and faster toward the end. So this is the rabbit, but it's not the one that we would have expected.
Yeah, but I think one of the important things here is Little Al obviously has a car exactly where he wants it. The car, that's all confidence the way he's driving right now. He can go anywhere he wants, pass high or low. He doesn't care. He's running very within himself.
That last car that he ducked by was Brian Herta driving A.J. Foyt's car. So Al Unser Jr. running away with this race. So the Mercedes-Benz engine, the big question of the day, for the time being, it has been answered. These are the answers that were expected.
But of course it's early in the going, and question marks about whether their tire wear will stand up, whether their transmission, which is new for this race, has never been in a race before, will last the distance, whether some little thing like a belt coming off might cripple them toward the end, who knows.
Yellow lights just come on. And it's Roberto Guerrero. Roberto Guerrero takes a spin, apparently several of them, and catches the wall, our second yellow of the day.
Yeah, and I can see the car right from where I am, Paul, although I didn't see all the spin. I saw the end of it, and the car isn't really hurt all that bad. It wasn't that bad a wreck. He's sitting still in the car. He's moving now. He's going to be able to get out, so I'm sure he's in pretty good shape.
With 20 laps complete, Robbie Gordon had moved up through the field, and then the yellow light came on. And there is the sign at the pits. Now, here's the rule here. The field must bunch behind the pace car before they open the pits. There's Roberto Guerrero's spin, Sam.
Well, the terrific thing is we've now had 2 spins, if you include the Dennis Vitolo one, and nobody hurt. And I think that the configuration of the track as of last year, with the aprons grassed over, it's terrific because the spins keep you away from the wall now. There he is in the center of the screen in the green car, losing it really low on the track, Danny, just the same way Vitolo did.
Let's take a look at that first replay once again. We'll do it in slow motion now. Roberto Guerrero.
He came off the turn too low, Paul. He was pinching it coming off the turn. And you can see he's going right across the short chute, sliding across, really slowed down the speed a lot. Comes out and bangs the car really very gently.
Bobby, do you think that that is partly because of the understeer that they're all experiencing?
Yes, what happens is they're pinching it too much coming off. A lot of the guys have been doing this down in turn 2. I saw Lynn St. James almost spin just a little bit ago.
Roberto Guerrero's wife watches from the pits. Bobby G has not finished a 500 since 1987 when he finished second. We'll return with more of the 500 after this message and a word from our ABC stations. We're back live in Indianapolis where everyone headed for the pits, but Mario Andretti is still there, Gary.
Yeah, Paul, they've taken off the bodywork. They've gone to work on the electronics in the right side pod. They tell us that the problem was the car would not idle when they came in under yellow for that pit stop. What a horrendous thing to happen on the first stop of the race for this man in his final drive at Indy. And we understand Paul Tracy is in the pits.
Now, Paul Tracy, a little bit further north in the pit area. When he came in, he stalled. That's one of the Mercedes-Benz engines, but also Al Unser Jr., the leader of the race. When he came in for his stop and started to pull away, this was what happened. Into the stop, the car's down off the jacks.
But Paul, you know, it's not uncommon for top drivers to have problems in the pits. Last year, Mansell overshot his pit. Fittipaldi stopped at the wrong pit. Mario went into the pits too soon. Bosell passed another car. So this is not uncommon.
And Sam, the problem there was that Little Al was being just a little bit too conservative, trying to take care of the transmission and the clutch. And sometimes you do that. You know, he's got a lead, he's got an edge, trying to take care of it, therefore a mistake happens.
Bobby, that was absolutely right. He was just trying to be conservative and not spin the tires, do any damage to the gearbox.
All right, let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Bobby Unser is absolutely right. There may have been a problem, just pre-race jitters. Remember what Danny Sullivan said? the fact that it's like teeing up for the U.S. Open. They haven't practiced any pit stops for quite some time. Now, there's a pit board across that signals to Al Unser Jr. The Penske radios are scrambled. The last time the board went out in front of Al Jr., it said radio out. We'll check on that, but there could be a problem with the radios on Team Penske and Al Jr.
Let's go to Jerry Punch.
Well, John Barnes, the team manager for Pagan Racing, and Roberto Guerrero. And John, it's not a good beginning for you. What happened out there?
Well, the Interstate Batteries car was doing a great job, and Roberto was moving up through traffic easily, and everything was just fine. It looked like he got a little dirty air and down in the corner there and just got away from him. But it was an honor to have a great guy like him drive for us, and we look forward to doing it again.
Have you spoken with him since the incident?
No, his radio communication on the backside with the suites here is a little bit bad, but he just came by the straightaway and said everything was fine. So it's just one of those things.
Let's check in with Gary Terrell.
The problems continue for Mario Andretti. They put all the bodywork back on. They thought they'd made the change. They tried to fire the car. It would not respond. We understand that when the accident occurred, traffic slowed down and it got below the low level for RPMs, and the engine just died. They haven't been able to get it fixed thus far.
We've just come back to green flag racing in Indianapolis. Emerson Fittipaldi leading the field after Al Unser Jr. spent an extra 11 seconds in the pits due to a stalled engine. It dropped him down to third. But very quickly on the green flag, this car, number 31, moved around Michael Andretti and moved into second place. There's Michael Andretti's onboard camera. Is that terrific or what as he runs in third?
And Paul, just so the people know, it looks like the right rear of the car is shaking on this shot, but it isn't. The camera is mounted on the wing, and that's what's doing the vibration, and it's a very minor vibration.
Yellow light just flashed on, yellow light. And there's debris everywhere, and cars still trying to avoid one another.
Down in turn one.
Looks like one of the Dobson's cars, the Pac West machines. Other car down against the wall is difficult. Bobby Unser, do you have glasses on this? One car comes very slowly through this, and all of the equipment is there.
There's so much equipment around it, Paul, I really can't see it, and we saw the end of it, but we couldn't see the start of it from here.
Now, one of the cars appears to be Dominic Dobson. That's the right one down on the inside. We'll take a look at some replays, see if we can tell what happened.
There's Dobson pinched down tight on the inside. We know he's one of the cars involved.
Now remember, one of the problems when you see an accident like this isn't just the two cars that are in the accident, it's all the parts that are flying. The drivers behind are trying to miss all those pieces. They don't know at that speed whether it's big pieces of the car or a race car or little pieces.
Well, and also, Bobby, the big thing with those cars behind them is trying to gently go on the brakes, not too hard, so that they don't spin and get involved in the accident.
There it is again. Mike Groff is the other car. Mike Groff, the other car. Look at that from the apex cam. We'll take a look at one more angle.
Now this is a problem. You can watch. Yeah, you can watch that what happened there is two guys tried to get in the same position. Two cars just joined, and the car on the inside really couldn't do much about it. The guy on the outside that comes down, the guy on the inside, you can't do much. There's a right rear tire on the 40 car. Look at that.
That's Scott Goodyear, who started 33rd, and he's in trouble. Hopefully that rubber will not beat any damage into the back of the car, but it looks like it already has. So we're under yellow again here at Indianapolis with 30 laps complete. Trying to get the cars off of the race course. At the 17 car of Dominic Dobson, the crews here from the United States Auto Club have very carefully extricated Dominic Dobson from the car. He is on the stretcher. Now let's take a look at this situation from the teammate of Mike Groff, Bobby Rahal. Danny Sullivan, what's happening here?
Well, of course, the accident's occurred in front of him. He's trying to slow. He looks at all the debris. The car's slowing. Makes a great move across the grass onto the lane and safely out of there.
Here's another view of the same thing. Bobby Unser.
Yes, and you can see Groff coming down. He wants to go to the bottom. Now, he just went a little too far. Watch the right front and the left rear. Groff's left rear caught it, spins him, pinched the front end, the car on the left, and watch Groff. He goes and he hits the wall backwards. This is where he's been hurt. That's very solid on these cars. They don't give as much on the back as they do the front, Paul.
You know, and it sounded like Bobby Rahall's car took a hit of something heavy.
Now watch Rahal coming around, and you see it's that tire. If you hit a tire, you might as well hit a car. That's what everybody's trying to miss. Tires are floating around there just like pebbles.
So we're under yellow again at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll return with more of the Indy 500 after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Paul Pate. Mario Andretti has just climbed out of the cockpit after setting in abject frustration. Now on the wall, the helmet off. Mario, this crowd responding to all your years, and I know that this has to be as bitter a disappointment as maybe you've ever had at this great race plant.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why things happen like this. It seems like just weird things are happening to me very early, and you know, it's obviously disappointing. You know, I think you know, we're doing all right. We're running okay. I felt very comfortable. Nothing else I can say, I guess.
What happened when you had to slow down after the incident? Then you lost revs altogether?
When yellow came out, when I backed off, it blew out the pressure relief valve, the way I understand, inside the engine, inside the plenum, and they thought they could fix it, but it's an internal piece, and that's it, because I noticed as soon as I backed off on the back straightaway, when I'm trying to get back up to speed, the thing was just, you know, was just not picking up the rev. So coming in, I couldn't keep the engine running. So it just, one of those things. Just.
Mario, how hard will it be to leave Indianapolis as a competitor?
Well, it's hard, but you know, Michael is out there and John are out there, and I'll be rooting for him. So. You know, if I can win it, I hope they have many.
And we'll see you next week at Milwaukee.
You bet.
Mario is out, his car being pushed back into Gasoline Alley. And now Lynn St. James was also a victim in this most recent incident. She had suspension problems on the left front of the car. The crew has been working feverishly. They hope that they can get it repaired. Lynn has stayed in the cockpit. Of course, she's lost a tremendous amount of time after her sensational qualifying effort to start in the second row. So a lot of disappointment early at Indianapolis, Paul.
There's the Valvoline running order. Emerson Fittipaldi is leading the field back to green flag with his teammate Al Unser Jr. in second and Michael Andretti in third. That's where the battle will focus as we head back toward green.
The incidents have obscured the fact that so far in this race, the Mercedes engine Penske cars are really the dominant factor. We lost track of that because of the incidents, but look at them now. 1, 2, and about to pull away from Michael Andretti in the red car there in third.
And Rails. You can get an idea from how they accelerated from Michael, how much more torque they have down at low RPM, because Mercedes just literally took off from the Cosworth.
But boy, take a look at Eddie Cheever as he jumped around Michael and is tearing after the leaders now. And Michael may have a problem. That's the second car to scream past.
Michael is having a problem.
Michael's pulling the left over here. He's down, Paul. He's having a serious problem of some sort.
And they're crowding up behind him as Michael Andretti faltered as they came back to the green flag. And he continues to falter as the field now streams past.
Yeah, but that's more of a problem.
Jack Arute, you have an update?
Yes, Paul, he's radioed in. He has a flat tire. He's going to have to come on to pit road. Tough break for Andretti.
And that's something you can't always feel when you're under the yellow. You don't. It happened while he was under the yellow, but you don't feel it till you get back up to speed.
Yeah, and he had to make the whole lap in that trouble.
So under green flag as we come back, our first lap of green flag racing on lap 41 after the accident involving Dobson and Groff. And Michael Andretti, apparently some problem with a tire.
Paul, that means there's always a little bit of debris left that the officials just don't find when they clean up. And all it takes, these tires don't have tubes, takes a little tiny puncture.
Watch for the field possibly to come by. This is a brutal break. He may go a lap down. Watch above him there. Here he's coming out now. Look over to the... No, he stalled it. Now the field is going to come by. He's going down a lap or more.
Let's go to Jack.
He stalled it once again. They've got to refire. He lights up the new sets of tires. A man is very, very frustrated.
Now he tries to catch the field, but you can see the rest of the field streaming past on the outside as in a desperate move to merely try and get back in on only one lap behind. Here goes Michael, and he's flying out past Bobby Unser.
Yes, he is, Paul. He's looking all right. I comes down the track, blends in. Ironically, we're getting a sign down here that says black flag for number 27. I don't know if that's bad for you, Zach, but we got to watch that.
We'll keep an eye on that because 27, of course, is Eddie Cheever, who currently runs in third place.
Well, and he's diving into the pits right now. It probably had something to do with the restart.
Now, the report from the USAC officials is that car 27 and car 1 have both been black flagged for passing under the yellow. And Eddie Cheever is furious.
That would be the pass that he put on Michael Andretti.
The problem sometimes is the drivers anticipate the track is going to go green. Somebody in front of them is getting away, so they hurry a little bit too much. The officials don't always agree with the drivers, so that's the reason we have a stop and go penalty here with Eddie Cheever in the 27 car.
Bobby, this would be really tough for Eddie, though, because remember, Michael was actually slowing with that tire problem.
Yes, Sam, and he just moved into third place, and he's really been fast all day so far.
And try this on for size. What that does to the field is puts Fittipaldi and Unser in front and John Andretti in third, 8 seconds behind the leader. Robbie Gordon started 19th. He's currently 6th. And Bobby Rahal started 28th. He currently runs 12th.
Well, Paul, I think also Robbie Gordon, Derek Walker did a great move. He was about to go a lap down, made a change in the car. It was not handling good, and he's been strong ever since. I've seen him actually make some passes around the outside going into turn 4. Unbelievable.
Danny, Robbie Gordon is up to 6th, and he is charging.
Robbie Gordon, Sam, and Paul have done a few gambles on no pit stop. That's Derry Walker's team. They really understand this racing pretty good. They've tried to get caught back up. They got his car handling. He's been working different grooves than anybody else, as I told you earlier, and he's on the move.
Remember, the Derek Walker we're talking about was the former crew chief for Roger Penske, so he's got some of the Penske magic.
And Sam, don't forget that I was the guy that he was coaching in those days. He called my race in '85 that I won. Gary?
Well, car 1, Nigel Mansell, currently runs in 4th place. The indication was that he had to respond to a black flag. He has not yet done so. See if we get a glimpse of it.
The rumor mill would have Nigel Mansell offered $13 million and his car owner, Carl Haas, $21 million to make a return to Formula One racing to spice things up over there. You heard Gary Jarrell ask him if he was going. He declined to comment. The big numbers swirl around this man's future.
You saw the black flag light there coming off of turn 2, the big number 1 telling Nigel Mansell he has to come in. Eddie Cheever has already come in. What's the attitude in the pits, Gary?
Here's Larry Curry, who calls the shots for Cheever. What was the problem, and can you catch up?
It's going to be tough to catch up. I think we can, but Michael Andretti had a problem. He came in the pits because he had a puncture. Eddie passed him when they went green because Michael knew he had a problem. So they penalized us for passing under the yellow. What are we supposed to do, pull over and stop?
There you hear it from Larry Curry, and the black flag controversy is looming again at Indianapolis, Paul.
But while we have suggested that the pass was on Michael Andretti, the officials report that the pass really occurred on car 5, and that's Raul Boisel.
Remember last year it happened to Boisel, Paul, and now it's happening to Mansell and, of course, Eddie Cheever. And, you know, another thing, I notice all the cars as they come through turn 2 here, they're going a little bit slower. I think we're entering that point in the race where everything is a little bit slippery in the turn. I watch the guys that are more conservative running a little bit closer to the grass.
And we have reconfirmed with the United States Auto Club officials that the black flag was for passing Raul Boisel, both Cheever and Nigel Mansell.
It's interesting that Boisel is now benefiting from penalties to Cheever and Mansell. As you pointed out, Bobby, last year, of course, it was Boisel who had 2 penalties.
We're past the 100-mile mark now. As back in the field, you're on board with Raul Boisel. Robbie Gordon is lined up just behind him. This is a battle for 4th place.
You can almost watch his steering wheel as he goes through the corners, Paul, and he's really handling good. He's not pushing, and he's not loose. You can watch a good, steady amount of pressure. Watch when he rolls in to the turn here. Good, steady pressure on the hand. No quick corrections. Out close to the wall. Very smooth.
Bobby, I talked to Raul right before the start of the race, and he said that he was happy, everything was perfect, he had no problems, and he was looking for a good race.
This is terrific from Robbie Gordon's car. Now, look just ahead. There's Raul Boesel just ahead. So we'll track this battle from 5th place on board with Robbie Gordon.
Now look at the different groove he's taken. Now he's down, not even to the white line, Paul. He's been high down here in 2 turn all day. He's been trying to make his own groove. Now he's been in the pits adjusting the car, but we can watch him as we go around what he does compared to the rest.
And you can see he is just edging closer and closer to him. Robbie Gordon, a young 25-year-old, drove for A.J. Foyt last year, made the switch to Derek Walker. He has matured a lot. He is willing to drive a tactical, somewhat conservative race, which he was not a year ago.
Robbie Gordon on the backstretch. Now, guys, let's just sit and watch and listen to Robbie Gordon as he tries to reel in Boesel. He's inching closer and closer to Raul Boesel. Now, they've changed the way they assess penalties here from last year. Let's watch here as there's some traffic ahead, and both of them have to string through that. Raul Boesel, he goes a little inside, Danny.
And look at that, he can go. I've never seen anybody today run around the outside like Robbie is. That is total confidence there.
I just started to mention he's going to try to pass him on the outside.
Whoa, look at this! Look at this!
Unbelievable shot. Unbelievable shot.
Into the first turn, they were drag racing. Now we're looking back from Boesel's car. Whoa, what an unbelievable view.
Gordon lost speed with that outside pass, and Boesel, he looked at it as if he'd been blown off, but he came back.
Well, here is the Valvoline race summary for those of you entered in the Valvoline Indy 500 giveaway. The leader after 50 laps was Emerson Fittipaldi. Stay tuned for the results at the end of the race. Remember, we've had 3 cautions here today. Thus far, 6 cars are out of the race. There they are.
You know, Paul, the first thing you think about when you watch Robbie going around Boesel on the outside is he really woke him up, because no driver would expect that at this time of the race.
All right, now we were talking about how they're assessing the black flag penalties this year, Jackaroot.
Well, Paul, what happened for Nigel Mansell is his infraction occurred under the yellow flag, but they will not assess penalties anymore under yellow flag conditions. So some 10 laps, 15 laps later, they brought Mansell in under green flag conditions to assess the penalty as Lynn St. James makes her way back out on the racetrack. But Mansell is extremely upset. It seems like the crew is trying to calm him down right now on the radio, because it was so long from when he had the infraction before they gave him the black flag stop and go.
And of course, part of the reasoning there is the complaint last year was that if you assess a stop and go penalty under the yellow, well, it's really no penalty. Look at Gordon, and there's Boesel to the inside. Whoa! Now watch this. This is terrific.
Yeah, but what happened was that Boesel was slowed going into the corner, and
that's 230 miles an hour. They're almost touching.
And Gordon had nowhere to go, Bobby, because there was a car to his right. That's why it was so close.
Sam, he was really worried about it. The wall on the right, Boesel on the left. That's a bad position to be in.
Mauricio Gugelmin just inside of Teo Fabi and John Andretti there. Andretti runs in 3rd place, so he's overhauling some slower traffic. Fittipaldi is the leader. Unser Jr. runs in 2nd. We watch Boesel and Gordon. Gordon's around him again.
But he doesn't have the car on the outside to block him. What a great move. He's got total confidence out there, and I think we're going to see him passing cars all day long there.
Danny, we've never seen passing like here this early in the race. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. He's got the car set up just perfect, and he shows he just can pass anybody wherever he wants to go.
You know, most of the drivers have felt, because of the track being narrowed down, can't run the apron anymore, that cars don't pass on the turn. But we know now they do.
Bobby Rahal comes in, makes a stop. This is under green, and one would assume not scheduled.
Well, Bobby, the other thing about that passing, the only guy that we're seeing making those passes is Robbie Gordon.
Here's Arie Luyendyk in, so we may be coming up on scheduled passes under green flag. For example, Luyendyk made his last stop on lap 22. So it looks like these cars are thirsty once again. John Andretti, boy, what a story. When he's done here at Indianapolis, it's off to Charlotte Motor Speedway for another 600 miles of racing in a stock car. Let's go to Jack Arute.
Well, Scott Goodyear, you're out of the race. What does this do for your mindset for the rest of the IndyCar season?
Well, it's been tough this month. There's no doubt about it. Everybody in the Budweiser team has given it all. But, you know, you put so much emotion and so much heart into this deal. It's just, it's been draining this month.
See him in a week, Paul, at Milwaukee.
You see Robbie Gordon just a second ago as the car gave a pretty good twitch. He caught it, kept going.
Paul, just a quick deal on John Andretti. You know, when he finishes 500 miles here and is looking at another long race in Charlotte, that's going to really be tough. The only rest he's going to have is on the airplane getting there. That's really going to be bad.
And, Bobby, if this race runs long, he planned for this race to be 3 hours and 10 minutes the way last year's was, but this race is running much slower than last year's race, so he's going to have very little envelope there.
Jerry Punch, an update on John.
Exactly, talking about his tough schedule. In fact, they have done some calculations here in the John Andretti pit, and this race has to average 150 miles per hour for him to be able to make it to Charlotte to run the 600. And right now, it is going to be very, very close if this race stays under 150 mile per hour average.
Averaging 139.7 now. John Andretti, the 33 car, 24.1 seconds behind the leader of the race. There is Raul Boesel. Black flag is now out for Scott Sharp.
Bobby, one other thing I'd like to say about John, the hardest part is, of course, that the mental drain that you get from running in the Indianapolis 500 really takes its toll. And now to turn on again and go do a 600-miler at Charlotte is going to be awful difficult.
Yeah, Danny, and these drivers live this race for about 3 days after it's over. So it's going to be harder from that standpoint, too.
The blue and white car that we're watching here, coming by on the inside, Jacques Villeneuve. You see him making a terrific pass. That's the highest placed rookie in the field. He has just moved into third place. Son of Gilles Villeneuve, the great French-Canadian driver who was killed in Formula One in 1982, as we see Little Al headed for the pits.
This should be a routine stop as well, but remember, he stalled on his last stop. He runs in second place.
Yeah, but Bobby and Sam and Paul, I don't think you were going to see him stall again. He did it once. I don't think we're going to see it again.
Roger radioed some instructions to him about getting out of the pit.
Well, Danny, I don't think we're going to see the same problem because Roger Penske did counsel all the drivers about trying to keep their revs up just a little bit more when they take off. He comes awfully close, and he does again.
What was that?
He's got it refired again, but he actually rolling forward is what saved him. Now, Emerson Fittipaldi comes down to the pit road for a Penske tandem here. Let's see, no changes on Emerson, no changes on Al Jr.'s car. They are going to make no changes on Emerson Fittipaldi's car either. But the big question mark is with this new Mercedes, are they going to be able to exit the pits without stalling? Let's listen.
You know, Jack, these two cars are set up an awful lot different aerodynamic. I talked to Emma and the Little Al last night. One of them's going, Emma's going with light downforce. Little Al is going with heavy downforce.
I think Penske has more confidence of his cars on the track than he does in the pits. There's Jacques Villeneuve again, running in third right now.
Now, but with those stops, Jacques Villeneuve moves to the front of the field. And Jack Arute, both times the Penske cars came out of the pits, there was an unusual sound. What was it?
Paul, it beats me. I think it may be just the sound of the Mercedes engine as it starts to come up. Now, remember, when we listened to the sound of Al Jr., he literally stalled the car, but the rolling momentum, he had enough forethought to be able to keep going and disengage the clutch. It caught at the last minute. He fired it up, and he left.
Jacques Villeneuve leading the race reminds me, this is a rookie, and back in 1983, a rookie, Teo Fabi, also led much of the early stages of the Indy 500. The crew chiefs were the same. The man's name is Barry Green. He's masterminding this rookie's run today.
Well, Jacques Villeneuve picked up the lead of the race only as he crossed over the line and was scored at the last lap, but he did not catch Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi was coming out of the pits, but Jacques Villeneuve appears to be the leader. We're going to check scoring because there seems to be a question. Is it Villeneuve or is it Emerson Fittipaldi? We'll be back. Indianapolis, where Jacques Villeneuve has made his pit stop, taking him out of the lead. And right now, he's trying to hang on to the leader lap. That's Fittipaldi that's lined up just behind him. Fittipaldi trying to get around him.
Of course, the big story here is he wants to get around because he puts him down a lap. That way he wouldn't have to worry about him.
You take the look back. We're looking for Raul Boesel, who has a second-place car. A long interval, and there he is as Raul slows down to come into the pits. Everybody making stops under green. One of those who made a stop was John Andretti, who stalled it as he tried to come out of the pits, but then got going. But it dropped John down to 13th position. So those stalls have been very costly today. And now Raul Boesel heads for Jackaroo.
The Dick Simon crew beginning to go to work. They're going to try and do it as methodically as possible. Raul Boesel, the last report, Paul, was he may be encountering some radio problems. So far, the stop is going just as expected. Let's listen. Now, the one thing, Paul, you can notice there, he kept the revs up. You could hear the engine was much higher in 15.8 seconds.
So Raul Boesel is in and out. Danny Sullivan, that's quite a balance that they have to achieve there when they come out of the pits, because that clutch is very small and pretty easy to burn out, isn't it?
Well, that's right, and you got pretty tall gears in these things. You just want to get them going. You don't want to spin them too much. You'll heat up the tires too fast. You'll take some rubber off of them, and you don't want to abuse that clutch. You just remember, you got to make maybe 9 or 10 stops during the day. You need it a lot later.
So at Indianapolis, the Mercedes are back in front of the field again. Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. Jacques Villeneuve has dropped to 3rd place. Jimmy Vasser is 4th. Bobby Rahal 5th. Scott Brayton 6th. Nigel Mansell is 7th. 8th is Michael Andretti. And here is that ongoing battle between Gordon and Boesel. Boy, they love to fight with one another.
This time he passed him on the inside. I'll bet you Boesel thought he was going to do the outside again, Paul.
Well, I think, too, Bobby, I don't believe he was really up to speed enough. You know, he just come out of the pits, and Raul had done a couple of laps on his tires. He was probably a little faster.
Let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, Paul, let's show you what they did with Raul Boesel's car. They said they changed the stagger. Now, we'll take you back through what stagger means. That's the circumference on the outside tire and on the inside tire. If you have more circumference on the outside, the car will automatically turn left. What they did on Raul Boesel's car is they closed up the stagger. That means they lessens the difference between the two circumferences to try and make it handle better.
And what that means is they want the rear end a little bit tighter and the front end to push a little bit more.
See, the track, of course, is changing from moment to moment, too. Every time the driver comes out of the pits, he has a full fuel load. The car feels different than when he was out there last. And as the day wears on, rubber gets in the groove. The way the car handles on the track changes.
Now here's something to consider. This car, Raul Boesel, ran 6 laps, 15 miles longer than the Mercedes between stops. As Bobby Rahal moves around Jimmy Vasser and picks up 4th place. So Rahal working his way steadily toward the front.
Paul, he's gone through a lot already today with those accidents happening just in front of him. I'm sure he's very pleased and the thing's going according to plan.
Danny, don't you sometimes feel when you survive a couple of accidents early on, it's almost like it's your day? We heard that Bobby Rahal had a strange feeling about this race, that something special and good might happen to him after all the problems he's had in qualifying the last 2 years.
Sam, you're absolutely right, especially when you've dodged a few bullets like that and made a great move across the grass. Everything's feeling pretty good. And if this guy who's struggled all month long just to get in the show is now running up in the top 5, he's looking good. Gary, down to you.
Adrian Fernandez, one of the 9 rookies in this race. Tell us about this day, the conditions, your first experience at Indianapolis.
Well, it's just a sad day for us. The Decathlon and the Quaker State team with Gallus Racing and all the mechanics have done a great job with the car. The car was working really great, and it was those days, you know, this day was not too mean for us, and I had a blown tire. I think one of the accidents, every accident was happening just right in front of me, and it just happened, and I just couldn't get it to the pits with the tire blown. It just spun me out and stalled the engine.
Well, his first experience, not a pleasant one. We'll see you again next week, Milwaukee.
Thank you.
Paul?
So the Penske cars, Mercedes-Benz powered, run first and second, Emerson Fittipaldi, and 14 seconds back, Al Unser Jr. And then the fastest rookie in the field, Jacques Villeneuve, and then Bobby Rahal. We'll return with more of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from our ABC stations. We're back in Indianapolis. Al Unser Jr. there runs in second place. Nigel Mansell sitting just ahead of him, trying to keep from going down a lap. Currently runs in 7th position. The leader of the race is Emerson Fittipaldi. So the Penske cars continue their dominance here. The Mercedes-Benz has actually led between Al Unser Jr. and Emerson Fittipaldi all but 2 laps of this Indianapolis 500. Now, let's take a look at the Valvoline running order after 74 laps. With Fittipaldi, Unser Jr. at the top. We'll look down through the entire field here. We're averaging 155 miles an hour, so not anywhere near a record, and that's dropping off fairly quickly. One car that just stopped was Michael Andretti. He, of course, is out of sequence as he had to come in after that restart to change tires because he had a tire going flat.
The overall race pace is slower this year, Paul, but the speed on the track is faster. Emerson Fittipaldi has been 2:20 his fastest lap, and his top speed was 2:44 on the straight. That's fast.
Other people that we are tracking, Lynn St. James, of course, spent a long time in the pits and currently runs 26. Let's go down to Jerry Punch.
Dominic Dobson, your 7th Indy start was a short one here today. What happened out there?
Well, it sure was. It was disappointing because the Pac West Columbia helicopter car was running well. We were poised to get up into the top 10. And I just passed Hideshu Matsuda and was trying to get by Mike Groff. And I think something happened and we just both spun and hit the wall. I don't know if we touched each other or someone said he may have blown a tire. I haven't seen the tape, so I can't honestly say. But it was a short end and a very discouraging way to get put out of the Indy 500.
You seem to be okay, but you spoke with Mike Groff inside the hospital?
I did speak with Mike. He's okay. He's a little banged up, and I'm sure he's upset, just like I am. But, you know, this is racing, and this track is very difficult to pass on. The groove is narrow, and it's just almost impossible for 2 cars to go side by side.
Good news for Groff and Dobson. Both going to be okay, guys.
Gary, what a gentleman Dominic Dobson is. He could easily have laid the blame at the feet of Mike Groff and didn't. He reported his condition instead. That's terrific.
And also, one of the things that I like to hear there, and he would have said it, I don't think that they made contact. He said, I couldn't feel it. That means if they did, it was so light. It was very, very light. And that's a good sign, too. That's good guys racing very close together.
Yeah, you know, Danny, sometimes the excitement causes you to forget because we could see smoke between the tires.
Well, that's true, but was it when they just touched and Groff started to lose or not? But it was a good sign that they both have the respect for each other, and I don't think anybody was trying to do anything wrong there.
Let's get an update on Scott Brayton's run now. Here's Gary Gerald.
Well, Paul, very quietly, he's been a pretty impressive run today. The drama, of course, with his teammate Cheever and the black flag after Eddie had gotten up to 3rd, put him way back. Brayton runs 6th. John Menard says the car's working beautifully. They did put a little more wing in it on the last pit stop for a little better bite. Also, we understand that Nigel Mansell's having a bit of difficulty, the boost fluctuating, going up and down. So his woes continue.
In fact, Scott Brayton is in the middle of a good little battle to watch. He's got Jimmy Vasser just ahead of him, and Nigel closing on him from behind. So let's keep track of this, which is an ongoing battle for 5th place if you count Jimmy Vasser's position.
Well, you can watch Nigel Mansell going down the straightaway, drafting, trying to get a run, and whipping out going into the turn right at the last minute. Now, that's something the Mercedes have not had problems with. They don't have to draft that much. They just whip out like this and go by.
Vasser is the car, the blue and white car on the left that Mansell just ripped by.
And do you think that he remembers that move around that pass around the outside going into turn 1 that Lyondike did on him last year? Because he repeated that on Scott Brayton.
You know, it's been fascinating to watch Brayton, too, again in the yellow 59 car, because his line here has been so unusual. Look at Nigel Mansell, though, as he ducks under John Paul Jr. Vasser chases, and there's Michael.
An interesting thing about Brayton, with Mario withdrawing from the race, Brayton becomes the most experienced driver in this race. He's run more Indy 500s than anyone else, 13.
Well, based on the line he's been following, I'd say he has a good chance of saving that car and having it fresh and ready to run at the end.
I think Scott Brayton is a guy that has really learned how to drive this race. He had bad luck the last couple of years, but I think he was ready for a major success, and maybe it's going to happen today.
You know, Sam and Paul, even though the racetrack might be a little bit slippery in the groove right now, I've been noticing down here there really is no dust like on the outside, which is making it real nice for passing.
Nigel Mansell trying to close on Ray Hall. We mentioned that Dick Simon as an owner has 6 cars in this race. Let's consider what they are doing here today. In 9th, Bosell. Masuda runs in 11th. Vitolo, despite his spin, is 23rd. Mashushta, 24th. Lynn St. James, she had a lot of trouble in the pits. She's 26th. Marco Greco, 27th.
Bobby, have you noticed, too, that Mansell seems to be going through traffic a lot easier than Little Al, who was catching him, but Little Al doesn't seem to have as easy of time getting through the traffic, even with that Mercedes power.
Well, Danny, I've watched them all slow down. Their speeds are down around 210. Little Al's a little less than that. I think this is that deal in the middle of the race where everybody's doing a lot of thinking, kind of a dead time for the drivers, because they're trying to figure out for what they're going to do later. I'm sure you can remember thinking and doing the same things.
Oh, absolutely. At this time of the race, you're trying to, what calls am I going to make? Do I need to put some wing in it, take some wing out? What set of tires? Do I want more stagger? And just try to get through the traffic as best as I possibly can.
You know, the personality of race drivers also is that Emil goes fast all the time. He's just like a switch, on and off, whereas Little Al's going to do a little bit more thinking, I think.
Ray Hall makes a turn for the pit area. So Ray Hall coming in now. You're on the nose of the car. Now let's take you back while Bobby Rahal makes a stop. We'll continue to track this, let you know if anything changes. Let's go back to lap to 23. And this is the situation that developed in the pits that brought out a black flag for 2 competitors, Cheever and Mansell. Car 5 is the key. Raul Boisel as he comes out. Now you see the blend line just down below the car. There comes Mansell.
You can watch him correct with the steering there. The rear wheel that's spinning like that.
And there's Cheever. So Mansell and Cheever after the blend line. Now what they should have done was gotten back behind Boisel. They didn't do it. And so the black flag came out for both of them.
Frustrating for both because Boisel pitted so far to the end of the pits, was barely up to speed when they arrived. They would, both of them, have had to brake hard to avoid passing Boisel.
Well, they could, but if they had corrected themselves, Sam, they probably wouldn't have made the call. They don't expect you to lock them up, but if they had slowed down, let Boisel go back in front of them, they probably would have not made that call.
Once they were on the track, that's an option, correct?
On the track or even in the pit lane.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of a difference would it have made for a guy like Nigel Mansell, who now runs in 3rd? Could he have been the leader of the race as he tries to overhaul Dennis Vitolo here? Not a battle for position.
Little Al is now coming into the pits.
Al Unser Jr. in 2nd place.
And the big question, Paul,
routine, Jack.
And the big question is, will he stall it this time? We'll keep you abreast.
To come in as well, Emerson Fittipaldi. Scott Brayton is also in the pits, and Emerson Fittipaldi is on the pit road.
He kept the revs up a lot higher, Paul, and it was 14.8 as Emerson Fittipaldi comes in. Now, neither of the team cars are anticipating making any major changes. That bodes well. They seem to be pleased with the fuel consumption as well. Right now, it's just a simple stroll in the park.
Jack, when you talk about changes, of course, we're seeing them change tires. You mean changes to the handling of the car via the wings and the chassis.
That's right, Sam. There have been no wicker bill adjustments, no wing adjustments, etc.
So the leader is 1st and 2nd in and out of the pits. And that time in and out smoothly, as there's Fittipaldi.
I'd like to say one thing, too, to Jack. Being a driver, even when the cars are great, there's never a stroll in the park. There's always a problem. The handling is always a factor. You're always trying to adjust. You've all got little problems that you're dealing with
constantly throughout that drive.
The thing that's fascinating, Paul, right now, and Danny alluded to it, is Emerson has complained just a little bit throughout the course of the race about understeer, but when they offer to try and fix it, he says, no, leave it the way it is.
Well, Jack, that could be. Don't forget, they run through an entire tank of gas. That thing holds 40 gallons. So at the beginning, he might have more understeer, or the car might be more neutral. He might not want to change it because it'll upset the balance at a different part of the run, and he might be happy enough because he's just out there, as you say, in the lead.
Coming up Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports, our country's top gymnasts, including Dominique Dawes, take on China and Belarus in the Hilton Gymnastic Challenge. Plus, the Advil Mini Marathon from New York City, Saturday at 4:30, 3:30 Central on ABC's Wide World of Sports. A crash, Bobby?
Crash down in turn 1.
One car.
One car, that's all
the
there
walls,
is.
down to the inside. The crews are already there. The rest of the field slows. There is some debris up on the track. Masuda. Hidesi Masuda, the first rookie to qualify, first car to go out in qualification.
I just happened to be looking up, Paul, at the track as this happened. It looked like he just lost the rear end coming off, spun, hit the wall. Doesn't look like it was all that bad.
The Blimp Spirit overhead with that shot. There's the replay. Lost it coming off at turn 1, slammed the wall, and then just slid down to the inside.
But again, look at all that trash that flies off the track around there. We got to watch for flat tires from the other cars. That's the biggest fear that they have.
Bobby, how much trash is down in that area as we look at another replay of this accident?
Really doesn't look that bad.
Guys, sorry to interrupt you. We got another one up here in turn 3. We have another accident in turn 3.
This is an accident after the yellow?
Yes. They're down here. It might have been that debris that we're talking about. He might have lost a tire.
And that's John Paul Jr.
There's a flat tire that you can see. Most likely. That doesn't mean it was caused by the debris, but Danny's probably right. They run over debris. They have a flat tire that go in the next turn, and wowee, the car just takes off.
Well, Bobby, that's exactly why I asked you, because it's, and look at this.
Paul Tracy.
Smoke out of the Mercedes of Paul Tracy.
Now, Tracy was back in 13th place. He was not probably positioned to win the race, but this could be the first weakness shown by the Mercedes program.
All right, let's go back. We'll keep track of Tracy. Here is the car 45, the John Paul situation. Boy, lost it way early. That almost definitely confirms that Danny saw. What's this? What's this?
There's Nigel Mansell under. Unbelievable.
Nigel Mansell and Dennis Vitolo. Why? How did they get to this point? An unbelievable situation.
Yellow. What is going?
The yellow light's been on for several laps. This is on the pit road.
But interesting that Mansell and I think Al Jr. were the first guys through. The accident. Maybe they picked up a puncture too.
Yeah.
Nigel Mansell decides to get out because there was fire on the back of the car, and
remember, this is methanol that's burning, and you can't see it.
Sam, that's oil that's burning right there, not methanol, and you could see it. It's right underneath the engine there.
Yeah, but what about Mansell? One of the firemen saw something and went to just totally envelop Mansell. Maybe he thought that Mansell was on fire or saw some of those flames that we can't see from methanol.
Bobby, I saw the oil fire, but then so suddenly Mansell seemed to leap forward as if something else. That's why I suppose that maybe the methanol had ignited.
That's because everybody is screaming fire. He wasn't in a hurry until everybody's car screaming it. And he also knows the methanol fires are almost invisible, Sam.
Well, but Bobby, he is on the ground.
Bobby,
it's
it
not
also
an easy
could have
climb
been,
out.
It could have been, too, if his radiator was punctured. Don't forget that'll take time till it seeps into the back of the cockpit, and he could have all of a sudden got the hot water.
Which feels like fire, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe burns worse.
It's not very often we see one car on top of the other. This is really a terrible-looking possible accident there.
On the warm-up lane, and we still have no idea how these two cars, Vitolo and Mansell, got there well after the yellow. Let's get an update from Gary in the Mansell pit.
I'll tell you, Paul, this team is devastated down here because they were elated when that initial yellow came out. They were going back on the lead lap. They were right back in the race. Then suddenly, after the yellow, here's the problem for Mansell. They have ridden the roller coaster right to the bottom of the pit right now.
Well, Gary, remember, the Newman-Haas team has never managed to win Indy, and they've been competitive year after year since they started in 1983.
I'm worried about Nigel Mansell. He is in great discomfort there. Nigel and Jacques Villeneuve were both about to make up a lap, taking advantage of the yellow that came out. And then this happened, and we still don't have a clear understanding of why it happened.
I think obviously, Paul, that he got hurt in the accident. He was just sitting there for a while hoping that somebody could help him out, and then he either felt that hot water that Danny was talking about, or somebody was hollering fire, and both he got out no matter how much pain he had.
Bobby, your heart just goes out to Nigel, who's been hurt so often in racing one way or another. That bad accident at Phoenix last year, which he bravely overcame to finish third here in this race, and now this.
Well, let's take a look at Nigel Mansell's in-car. Maybe that'll give us an idea of what happened here. The yellow light is on. Emergency equipment is on the track. First time we're all seeing it.
This is turn 1.
And he's suddenly hit. And we're waiting. That was the camera going out.
There's
the
nothing wrong with the set.
Stopped. We're still watching the tape because there is where the camera comes back. And he gets hit from behind. That's what it looks like. We'll still ride with this videotape from Nigel Mansell's camera. Mansell's still sitting there. Go ahead, Danny.
His head's laid over a little bit to the left. I don't understand that.
Yeah, could he be dazed? Here's the smoke.
Fire starting in the back of the car.
That's the oil smoke.
It's from Dennis Bartolo's car, though, I believe. There's a little oil dripping down. You could see that. That's why it was burning with the yellow flame.
Nigel takes off the steering wheel so that he can get out.
Now he's slow. See, I think the water or something came through there, and all of a sudden he realized he was getting burned.
There's the water.
Out, the water's spitting out. That's from the radiator, I believe, of either his car or somebody else's.
Also from the fire extinguishers. Here's Michael Andretti's onboard camera. Maybe we can get a view from this camera, the same situation. No, that's really John Paul Jr. That was John Paul Jr., the first spin under the yellow.
Now that's one that you would just have to say that was a tire puncture, because the car just went out of control immediately.
Yeah,
the driver's fault.
Because the amazing part, Bobby, is that nobody's really going fast. I've never seen so many accidents, severe accidents, under a yellow.
Danny, it's like, remember, the rear end is one solid axle from right to left. If you have a tire goes flat, the other one keeps driving the car. There's the other accident right there.
All right, let's review what's happened here at Indianapolis. Masuda had an accident. They turned on the yellow light. Apparently, John Paul Jr. drove through the debris of the accident, and a straightaway later, he had an accident. And then during that yellow, Nigel Mansell was hit from behind by Dennis Vitolo, or apparently hit from behind. So we are still under yellow here at Indianapolis as we approach the halfway point, or 100 laps of the Indianapolis 500 with Mercedes-Benz 1 and 2. And there is Emerson Fittipaldi. He is the leader of the race as we are approaching the halfway point. In fact, as they cross the line this time, it will be the 250th mile and the green flag. Al Unser Jr. rides in second. In third place now on the leader lap is Jacques Villeneuve. Green is out. Here we go. The second half of the Indy 500 is underway.
When Emerson Fittipaldi came here a couple of weeks ago for the first days of practice, he had just been a pallbearer at Ayrton Senna's funeral. He was obviously shaken the first day he practiced. He just bedded in a few brakes and tires. The next day he came back and has been extremely focused ever since. Emerson Fittipaldi has put everything but the driving of this race out of his mind for 2 straight weeks, and look at the result.
Now, Sam, when you saw all those cars going by at the start, you saw that paper on the track. Often, that gets up in the radiators. Happens often after a yellow flag like that.
Sam, something else, too, that Emerson told me, something he's never done before. He went back home to Florida for a couple of days last week just to get away from everything and just kind of regroup. And I think he's been focused all this year.
Exactly. He used to rent a house here at the Speedway and stay throughout the whole month. But this year, he's concentrated on the racing.
As we track Scott Brayton and Michael Andretti in their battle for 5th. Raul Boesel heads down into the pits, so that certainly is untimed, unscheduled, and ill-timed. This could mean trouble for our boy Zell, who runs 10th right now. We'll watch it for just a second here.
Is Bozell destined to be one of the bridesmaids of Indy like Michael Andretti and Roberto Guerrero? Some guys are wonderful here, but they can never win the race.
So Rowan Boisel, he's got himself a serious problem there as the rear cowling comes off. Nigel Mansell, remember in that incident on our 4th yellow, Jerry Punch is down with Paul Newman, one of the owners of that team.
And Paul, you've just been inside the hospital. What's the update on Nigel Mansell?
Well, he's okay. There's no burns, and I guess he's pretty angry, though. He's in an exit lane, and someone just ran right into him on the yellow. So.
Has he been able to talk to Dennis Vitolo to find out exactly what may have happened?
I have no idea, no.
Okay, Paul Newman just exiting the hospital. Fortunately, the good news, Nigel Mansell not burned and appears to be okay. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
And up near the north end of the pits, Marco Greco, another of the rookies from Brazil, out of the race, mechanical engine problems. How about your first experience, Marco? I know you're disappointed, but it had to be a great thrill.
Well, it was a great experience. We got the 94 car on Friday, so we practiced with the 94 car. I got the engineer on Sunday morning, and we put the car on the field. Crew did a great job, and I was really happy. Unfortunately, during the race, things can happen, and we had a bad valve. But I was really happy to be here, and I look forward for next year to be back.
We look forward to seeing you as we go to Jackaroo.
Well, Gary, a problem with Raul Boisel after doing so well in the early going. The engine is overheated. The radiators are just steaming as they've taken the side pods off. It's going to be a long stop for this man.
Well, there's what Bobby Unser was suggesting just a few minutes ago, debris on the track. Most race fans, boy, there you got a shot of debris. That looked like heavy debris.
And of course, everything just wants to go to the radiators because they designed the cars to suck in the air there.
So on board Michael Andretti. Here is the Valvoline race summary for those of you entered in the Valvoline Indy 500 giveaway. Wait a minute. Let's see if we can get to Nigel Mansell.
Nigel Mansell. Here we go.
Yes or no? Jerry, go ahead.
Here in the garage, here back at the hospital, Nigel Mansell has come out of the infield care center. Nigel, first of all, are you okay?
I don't feel great. I got a bit of concussion, and I've just upset all the medical people because they want me to go to the hospital, and I don't. So if they want to take my license away, that's fine with me, because I've never seen anything such a joke as what we just had out there. We were under yellow for a lap and a half. Someone tries to take my head off.
Have you spoken with Dennis Vitolo, Nige, to see exactly what went on, what happened?
You speak to him.
Obviously, it upset Nigel Mansell, holding his right shoulder. And they wanted him to go down to Methodist Hospital for x-rays, but as you heard Nigel say, he would have no part of that. He has climbed in the golf cart, and he and Carl Haas, Paul Newman and company will head back to Gasoline Alley. Paul?
An understatement to suggest that Mansell is furious. Now, let's do the Valvoline race summary. For those of you entered in the Valvoline Indy 500 giveaway, the leader at 100 laps, halfway, Emerson Fittipaldi. Stay tuned for the results at the end of the race. Cautions today, 4, counting for 31 laps. But one of those cautions, the last, actually covered one incident under green when Masuda got into the wall, and then John Paul after the yellow, and then Vitolo and Nigel Mansell after the yellow. So one yellow flag covering 3 different incidents.
Okay, Paul, you know, I can understand Nigel. First of all, you're out there racing. You're putting everything into it. We've seen a lot of accidents. Everybody's dodged the bullet a little bit. Mansell just missed that accident with the Japanese fellow that spun, and now he goes and he's cooling off. He's just driving around. He's on the warm-up lane, and somebody clobbers him. That's not when you expect to have anything happen. You regroup, and it's dangerous enough out there under race speed. I can understand why he's angry, and he doesn't even know why it happened.
Danny, do you think that's a prelude to a return to Formula One? He really looked disgusted.
Well, you know, with everything going on, you never know with Nigel if he decides that that's a reason to get out of it. Things haven't gone well for him this year, or as well as he'd like to, defending champion. He might just decide this is his chance to exit.
Well, you know, my opinion, you two guys, is that he's a professional. He doesn't think what happened is reasonable, and I don't either, but by the same token, that'll never change his way of thinking.
So the answers now need to come from Dennis Vitolo. As soon as he is available, we are going to try to talk with him. We watch Michael Andretti. Scott Brayton is closely pursuing him, trying to close in. There comes Brayton.
Because I think we also have to be fair, Paul, to Dennis. We don't know what happened to him to cause him to hit Nigel. He might have had something break. He could have had a puncture just like John Paul did. We just don't know what caused that accident.
You're absolutely right, and that's why we want to talk to him. So the three cars that matter, Michael Andretti, then the yellow car of Scott Brayton, and then Jimmy Vasser just behind Scott. They are beginning to close in on a battle for fifth.
Last year, only 4 cars were out at half distance. This year, 12 cars out at half distance. A return to the carnage of 1993, but luckily without the injuries, at least so far.
You know, we talked at the beginning of the up and down years of Bobby Rahal. Last year was terrible. He didn't even make the race. Right now, he's running in 4th place, and Danny Sullivan, as we look off the front of Rahal's car, twice in this race, he has missed being involved in a major incident.
Let me tell you, Bobby's having one of those days where luck is shining on him. Everything seems to be happening right in front of him, and he just scoots his way through it and misses all the debris and the damage. And I know he's counting his blessings. But the good part is he's running right behind Eddie Cheever and in front of Al Unser Jr., and nobody's changing position, and Al's not really closing on him. He's running a very strong race, even though he's a lap down.
And look at that great run up through the field. Let's go down to the track medical center and Jerry Punch.
Unfortunately, this man has seen much of the field today. And Henry Bach, Dr. Bach, what's going on inside the hospital? What's the update?
Everybody's been released at this time, Jerry. Mr. Vitolo, Mr. Matsuda, Mr. Paul have all been released in good condition. They had some minor bruises, but they've been released in good condition. Mr. Mansell, our exam was not complete before he walked out the door. I believe you probably spoke to him, so I really have no report on his condition.
Nigel said you wanted him to go down to get some x-rays on his shoulder, but he sort of disagreed with that.
I was more concerned that he was a little foggy about some things when he came in. I was more concerned he may have a little head injury, but we'll never know that, I guess.
Thank you, Hank. I think Nigel Mansell was crystal clear with regard to what he thought happened on the racetrack.
All right, here is Bobby Rahal. He runs in 4th place. The leader of the race is Fittipaldi, followed by Al Unser Jr. and Jacques Villeneuve. Rahal runs in 4th as we look at the last lap average for him. We'll be back with more of the Indianapolis 500 after this message and a word from our ABC station. We're back in Indianapolis, 115 laps of 200 complete. This was just a few moments ago. Eddie Cheever, watch him as he moves to the outside. Danny Sullivan brushing the wall.
Amazing. He had been running high, and I'd been watching him, but I couldn't believe that he ran that high. And that's on an entry. That's not even on an exit. So he's setting up for turn 2 right there and wanting to get all the road.
And the car behind him then was Bobby Rahal, who once again came very near to being involved in an incident.
All right, let's go back to the medical center. Jerry Punch.
John Paul Jr. just walking out, and JP, you almost made it by Matsuda without a problem.
Well, he crashed, and we must have ran over something because we got down to turn 3 trying to catch up to the pace car, and it blew the tire out and just swapped ends right away, and that's the way it goes.
John Paul Jr., okay, here in the garage area. We'll head back toward his garage, guys.
Okay, interesting there, too. Bobby, he said he was trying to catch up to the pace car, so he must have been on the gas pretty hard trying to make up some ground.
Right, Danny, but you know, if he was just doing 120, when you only have one tire driving, boy, it's spin out time.
Well, that's true, but you know, the good part is it probably happened before. If he had waited, he might not have gotten that until the restart under green.
Here's Scott Brayton, who is running in 5th place as he rolls onto the pit road.
In the cockpit of car number 12.
Under the green light with 117 laps complete. Everything here appears routine. Oh, fairly casual in that stop, Bobby.
Yeah, that's about the slowest pit stop I was going to say that I've ever seen. There's other problems. They're just doing some talking. Now the hood's coming off.
Yeah, I was going to say he didn't even look like he came down the pit lane at 100 miles an hour either.
All right, we watch the leader, Emerson Fittipaldi, but the questions are all to Dennis Vitolo, and Jack Arute has him.
Well, Dennis has found his way back to Gasoline Alley, and Dennis, when Nigel Mansell came out of his car and out of the hospital, he didn't have the kindest of things to say about you. Give us your version of the accident.
Well, there's really only one version. This is the hardest thing to say, but it is. It was my fault. I came into off the back straight down at the pit lane and was just a little bit too quick. Got caught out and ran into the back. I think it was John Andretti. And that launched my car up, and I collected Nigel. Unfortunately.
Early on, you had another close call, and that was the spin. Describe that sensation.
Yeah, the car was very good at the start of the race, and I was able to stay up with everyone. Things were going real. Then the car kept getting looser and looser, and then I got caught out and spun. We came back in, we made a change, and the car was good again for a while, and then got loose again. Then that last pit stop, we made 2 changes, and the car was much better.
So much of a burden upon you and your family, literally mortgaging everything you've got, and now it's come up short. What does that do to Dennis Vitolo and your wife and your kids?
Well, this is racing. This is what, you know, the cards I was dealt. This, unfortunately, I can't blame anybody but myself. But just to be here, I think, for me, everything was paid for when I qualified for the race.
Paul, I think it takes a lot of guts and determination to admit the situation.
Dennis Vitolo, now the story complete. Bobby Rahal, he runs 4th. And the antenna at the front of his car, it looks like it's got a little chunk of rubber from off of one of the other tires as Rahal makes what should be a routine stop.
I also thought, Paul, that was very credible for Dennis. He didn't try to dodge the bullet. He said, I made a mistake. You know, he's a rookie in the field. He doesn't have the experience of Nigel Mansell or a lot of other people out here, and he just made a mistake. Unfortunately, you can't blame a guy for that.
What had to be a terribly embarrassing moment. Bobby Rahal in and out, though, 15.5. 200 miles to go in the Indianapolis 500. Al Unser Jr. trying to catch his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi, who is 28 seconds ahead, running all alone in the lead.
And you'll see the Penske cars are not always the fastest in the curves, but they're able to accelerate down the straight with such superiority to the others. And you watch this happening right now, Al Unser Jr. in the red and white car, that they're able to keep moving through the field with ease.
That's Mauricio Guzman that was maneuvering down to the inside. Jack Harut, you have an update?
Well, Paul, there may be the first changes made on the Mercedes cars of both Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. The discussion is underway in both pits, maybe changing the wings, trying to get rid of a little bit of push that has first plagued Fittipaldi and now is beginning to plague Al Unser Jr. Let's check in with Gary Gerald as the Penske team gets ready for Unser and Fittipaldi.
Scott Brayton for John Menard had been running in the top 10 very steadily, very quietly all day, but when he came in that pit stop, you noted that he came in quietly. The engine was off. They couldn't get it restarted. They're working constantly with the engine, but it may be terminal here for Scott Brayton.
Jimmy Vasser into the pits. He was running in 4th place as he came in for his routine service under the green. Routine stop and back into the action.
Paul, down here in turn 2, I noticed little Al has not been being able to keep up with them. He's been losing a little bit going into the through the turns and the traffic.
Well, Bobby, he's coming into the pits right now, possibly for a change in his setup. It'll be interesting to see whether he improves when he goes back out.
Well, Sam, the latest word we've received is they've elected not to make a change. We'll have to wait and see if that is the case. Jerry Briand, Richard Buck on the outside, they'll change tires. Doesn't look like any wing adjustments, and it will simply be an exchange of 4 tires and a full load of fuel.
Yeah,
meanwhile, go ahead, Bobby.
He's already made one change to the right front of the wing, and probably a stagger change. I watched the right front guy just really quick make a half a turn on the right front there.
We're watching Emerson Fittipaldi now. We'll see if they make any adjustments there as well, gentlemen.
0.9 seconds.
Fittipaldi was into the pits as the leader. Al Unser Jr. already on the roll.
Now keep in mind also, Paul, that these 2 cars have 2 different types of downforce. Emo has the lesser downforce. Little Al has the most downforce.
Remember, Roger Penske has won 8 of the last 15 Indy 500s, but he has rarely dominated one of the races as he is today.
Let's take a look at the Valvoline running order after 122 laps and a 15-second pit stop for Emerson Fittipaldi. Now remember, the pit stops have occurred since this running order was given. We look down through the entire field. And Jacques Villeneuve continues to sit in striking distance of the leaders. This young rookie, youngest kid in the field, is driving a spectacular race. Fastest rookie coming into this race.
His dad was killed when Jacques was just 10 years old. He never had the opportunity to learn from him the way the Unsers and Andretti's did from their dads.
So at Indianapolis now, with under 200 miles to go to the finish of the Great 500, we've had a race filled with incident, but also filled with action. We'll be back. Well, with the stop by Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr., Jacques Villeneuve picked up the lead of the race, but he is already on the pit road. As we look at the rookies and how they are doing here today at Indianapolis, one of those things that we covered in the pregame to this race. But now here is young Villeneuve, who is really driving a spectacular race.
What does this remind you of? A young Mario Andretti to me.
Well, I'll tell you, it's the best rookie I've seen here for a long time.
And Paul, by this fuel stop, this team ought to be able to make the rest of this race in only 3 stops. They are going to take as much fuel as they possibly can. You can see they've dropped the jack, and they are just going to take a full load and put Villeneuve back in 16.5 seconds, a very quick stop.
I don't think you had to worry about him stalling that engine leaving the pits either. He had plenty of revs, and he was spinning those tires.
While he was in the pits, Emerson Fittipaldi picked up the lead of the race once again. Last we saw Scott Brayton, he was stopped in the pits for a lengthy stop, and Gary Gerald, that's gone from bad to worse.
Indeed, Paul, he's out of the car. They take out the spark plug, something in the engine, badly fouled plug here. Scott had run as high as 4th. You had a couple of close calls, you said out there. You nearly got nailed in a couple of those incidents.
Yeah, well, the first one was when, I believe it was Groff and somebody else hit. I had to go down in the grass to keep from getting hit, and then Vitolo come around me and hit Nigel on that warm-up lane in the caution.
How tough is it to just be in one race this year?
Well, I'm hoping that we're going to get to do more, but we've got a lot of testing scheduled for the off-season right after this race, and I don't know how many races I'll be running, but it felt good to get out there and race with the guys.
Thanks, Scott. Paul?
Now that spark plug, I look at that thing, it's not a foul spark plug, it's just a slight correction on that. That's engine pieces from the piston that are in it.
There didn't look like there was a whole lot left.
John Andretti stalled there. John Andretti in the pits. He stalled the engine. We've been trying to locate both Mike Groff and Roberto Carrero so we could talk with them, but they've left the track apparently frustrated with their performance today.
We got
Here's Emerson
coming in.
Fittipaldi. You got it, Danny. Emerson Fittipaldi.
Yeah, this is definitely unscheduled. This is unscheduled. He's got some kind of a problem if he's coming in right now. He just pitted.
All right. Danny, what the problem is he's picked up some debris in the radiator. They have been trying to stay on top of it on every stop. You'll see a crew member reach to the inside the tunnel area of the side pods. There they go, Rick Reideman covering one side, another crewman on the other. They're trying to clean it out. They're beginning, and you can hear a little bit of a misfire as he began to pick up the throttle, but he's off and away.
And remember, these engines will get pretty hot. It only takes a little bit. They're setting their turn about 9,500 on the Mercedes engine, and it only takes a little bit. And remember, the drivers can't watch the problems all the time. The problem was probably discovered via the telemetry to the computers.
Okay, and one other thing that they did there, you notice that they refueled the car again. So he will be out of step a little bit with Little Al.
So they started with 3 cars, the Penske team. Paul Tracy dropped out. Now Emerson Fittipaldi has had trouble, and Al Unser Jr. leads the race.
And you got to remember, everybody, that these radiators, when the cars are made, are all very marginal. They're made just to barely cool because the smaller the radiators, the faster they go down the straightaway. So any hot dog wrappers, hamburger wrappers get in there, just ruins the cooling.
So Al Unser Jr. picks up the lead of the race as his teammate Fittipaldi makes an unscheduled stop to get that debris out of the radiators and coolers on his car. There's Little Al, the pole sitter. The best start he's ever had at the Indianapolis 500. He led the early laps. Fittipaldi with the stop drops back into second. Villeneuve with his stop drops back into third.
You know, Paul, on the radiators, again, back in the old days, they used to put screens and bevel them out. And now today, they make Venturis out of the radiators just like they do underneath the cars, and they suck and draw the air through. So that's the reason they're like a vacuum cleaner.
Let's go back to the Penske pits and Jack.
Paul, you know a racing car can cost as much as $500,000. This plastic bag probably cost maybe 2 cents. This is exactly what found its way into the radiator pod of Emerson Fittipaldi's car. It might cost him $1 million in a win in the Indy 500.
Most expensive plastic bag on the planet. Al Unser Jr. leads. Fittipaldi second. Ray Hall continues to run steadily in fourth place with Michael Andretti fifth, Jimmy Vasser sixth. And there we take a look down. Let's take a look at what they look like as we watch them. Fittipaldi, there he is in second, and the young rookie. And then Bobby Rahal, Michael Andretti, and Jimmy Vasser. We'll be back as the 78th Indy 500 continues. Look at this group as they come off of 4.
What a traffic jam down here in 4. They were 3 abreast through turn 4.
Whoa!
Whoa, guys, easy on those moves. There's a lot of racing left.
Michael Andretti just veered across the main stretch. Here's his onboard camera now. Well, I'll tell you, you talk about a traffic jam. He just scared Brian Herta pretty bad there on the outside in the A.J. Foyt's 14 car.
I bet Brian really got a surprise right then. He started pulling in the turn, and whoa, Michael was already there.
You got a glimpse from Bobby Rahal's car for a moment. It's still a bit of a traffic jam as they come to the north end, Danny.
Well, it is, and I can't believe it. Little Al's got to be happy to be kind of strung out now a little bit in single file, because that must have looked terrible to him.
Well, finally, they decide single file is a little smarter. Boy, what a set of corners for that group. And much of it not even for position. They were just caught up that way. Bobby Rahal now behind Herta. The order is Fittipaldi, Unser Jr., Villeneuve, Gordon, Michael Andretti, Rahal, and Jimmy Vasser. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Raul Boesel, you nearly won this race. Last year there was bitter disappointment. Now it's disappointment of another kind. Tell us about the problems and the frustration.
Yeah, we lost water from the engine. It started overheating. But already from the start, the engine didn't produce as much power as they should. And I knew it was some kind of problem. And I was just hoping and hanging there to do a steady race. But you know, end up what I was afraid that happened from the beginning.
What about the start of this race, Raul?
I think it was a bad start. You know, the cars not line up properly. They took a long time to put the green, and I even thought they not giving the green flag, the green light. So I was surprised when they did the start.
Is that why you were late to accelerate and the Penske on either side of you and the Mercedes were able to pull away?
They accelerate so much faster coming out of 3 that they couldn't keep it up. So I thought, well, I'm sure they'll not give the start because everybody's not in line, and certainly, you know, they did. So I was surprised.
We look forward to seeing you with better fortune next week in Milwaukee.
Thanks.
Paul?
144 laps are now complete. Jacques Villeneuve runs in 3rd position. We'll take a look at the running order from Valvoline after 143 laps. 3 cars on the leader lap.
Paul, I think one thing important here is that Little Al is back there in that traffic, and his car's obviously not working as good as he'd like. It's taking him time to get through there, and Emerson's got that clean track in front of him, and he is really trying to stretch it out.
Danny, you know right now the sun has been beating on this thing all day. The track has got to be really slippery.
Danny Sullivan, let's go back and look from Michael Andretti's camera. That traffic jam that you were talking about.
Well, he was very quick coming down here. He's in traffic. Look at this. There's 3 abreast there. He's making some moves back over to the other side. Unbelievable driving here. And he goes in. He's carrying a lot of speed, but I think he's going to make a move on Brian Herta here going into 2. And I think it scared Brian. I don't think he expected him to come down there into 2.
Tell you what, that was some terrific driving there. Watch one of the Penske cars as it closes up on Michael Andretti. Jack Arute, Al Unser has retired from racing and is today a spectator.
And he is a very agitated spectator right now. We were talking to him before. Al, this is, you said, was the toughest thing you've ever had to do.
That it is, you know. Nothing worse than standing here. I tell you, it's not easy.
Watching your son with the Mercedes, what have you noticed? Something that maybe you could tell our viewers to look for?
Well, he's looking very good. You know, they made the other stop, and can't get by the traffic right now, but he was pushing earlier, and he should be okay now.
As we watch that pack come hurtling down through as close company as they were in, is maybe that the one time you were glad you weren't strapped in the cockpit today?
Well, they all made it through, so, you know, they're all capable drivers, but it was close.
Al Unser, I bet he's a little more apprehensive as a spectator than he ever was in the cockpit, known for his cool driving. Not only Big Al, but Johnny Rutherford, three-time winner, announced his retirement this month of May as well.
Hey, Bobby, do you think that heavier downforce package on Little Al's car is not as big of an advantage as Emerson is with the light downforce package?
Well, obviously, Emo's getting through the turns a little bit better because, like you said, Danny, he's working traffic better. The Little Al's balance is off, and my guess is he doesn't have the downforce matched up with the stagger across the back.
Al Unser Jr., who runs second, just ahead of him is Michael Andretti, who currently runs in 5th place. Later this summer here at the Speedway, they'll start a new racing tradition. NASCAR's best will battle it out on this historic track for the first time ever. Join us here at ABC for the inaugural Brickyard 400, live Saturday, August 6th, here on ABC Sports. But right now, it's 500 miles that are of concern. 148 laps are complete. Michael Andretti has been running laps equal to Al Unser Jr. for the past couple of laps. But Al closes in. There's your leaderboard at 148 laps for the top 10.
And Paul, I just did a little bit of calculating on pit stop, for example. These may not be exactly right, but we have Little Al possibly pitting on 166 and again at 194. And then we have Emo doing 162 and 190. Villeneuve coming in at 163 and maybe 196 or 97.
Race strategy and update, Gary Gerald.
Well, let's follow up on what Bobby was just saying about projected stops. Barry Green, Jerry Forsythe, no, and they're saying flatly, we can't keep up with the horsepower of the Mercedes, so we're trying to be a little conservative now. There is a chance that they may be able to nurse it so that they have to make just one more stop. They think Unser, I should say, will have to make a stop and then a second one for a splash of fuel. That could pull Villeneuve back up into contention late. Let's go to Jack Arute.
And Gary, you're absolutely right. The thinking and the conventional strategy here in the Penske team is they will have to make 2 stops. They're now debating whether it should be a long full load stop this next time and then a splash and go, or the other way around. Right now we're being told that Fittipaldi will take the long stop the next time and then a splash and go.
Right now, so much of this race is in the hands of the team managers, the chief mechanics, the car owners, and the pit. The drivers just trying to pace themselves and get to the last 100 miles so that they can be ready to race when we come to the closing laps of the Indianapolis 500. 151 are complete.
And Paul, keep in mind when they talk about the splash and go or the real quick stops, that's still roughly 1/2 of a lap. So the people watching TV, they can just kind of see where the cars are. Bigger half a lap lost.
So still looking for the sign and when to come in. Here's our Valvoline race summary for those of you that have entered in the Valvoline Indy 500 giveaway. The leader at 150 laps, Emerson Fittipaldi. Stay tuned for the results at the end of the race. 5 cautions accounting for 34 laps. These cars out of the race, a long, long list. So fortunately, with all the incidents today, no serious injuries. Most serious appears to be Nigel Mansell, and he refused to go to the hospital.
And you know, in previous years, the Lola firm dominated the chassis here. There's only one Lola running right now in the top 10. The others are Penske's and Renards.
And 2 rookies in the top 10. Villeneuve in 3rd, and Brian Herta runs in 9th. This young man could be the key to the race. We're back live at Indianapolis. Emerson Fittipaldi, car 2, is the leader. Now at Indianapolis, 40 laps equal 100 miles. Traditionally, everybody races for the last 100 miles, and then they really turn it on. Emerson Fittipaldi just put Bobby Rahal, the 5th place car, down a 2nd lap. The Mercedes-Benz engines have been very powerful, running 1st and 2nd right now with Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. The 12 car, which is Jacques Villeneuve, a rookie, is 1 car to watch, and the question is going to be, how do they schedule out their pit stops, as Jack Arute already mentioned. We expect stops to begin here in about 7 or 8 laps, and then that would mean that the computations will carry some of these cars perhaps to the end, but also perhaps to just short of the end. Bobby Unser, you've been doing some of those computations.
Yes, Paul, and what I figure is kind of what we came up with in the pits a little while ago, that Villeneuve, who has really been fast, makes a little bit better mileage. He can run about 3-4 laps longer than the Mercedes engine, but he's going to have to cut the horsepower back another cut a pit stop, and that's the only way that he can cut one pit stop and have a chance of winning at the rate things are going now.
And Bobby, for me, he doesn't seem to be slowing down. He seems awful racy out here. He's mixing it up in traffic, and he seems like he's running the same pace that he was earlier. And I don't think if he backs off, I think he might go one more pit stop plus a splash.
So Danny, that's certainly going to make it exciting from lap 195 to 200.
Well, that's true. And of course, Bobby, if they get one more yellow, then all of that becomes a moot point anyway for Villeneuve.
Couple of things else to consider, guys. Usually the leader at lap 190 is not the leader at 200 laps. Emerson Fittipaldi, his trap speeds through lap 159. Another thing to consider here is, let's go back to 1967 and 68 when the new turbine was here at the Speedway. The closing laps in both years, cars that dominated the Indianapolis 500 suddenly were not able to race, and they lost. Bobby Unser, you remember that very well.
Yes, Bob, but I'd like to report I had the turbine beat. I just didn't have a gear shifts.
Oh, revisionist history here at Indianapolis.
Bobby, that's a true racer's excuse.
I had to throw that one in.
As we watch the superiority of the Mercedes-Benz engine cars, I think it should be said that the other triumphs through history that Mercedes has had has been with their own technology. They built their own cars and their own engines. This, in effect, is bought technology. The engine was built in England by Ilmor and Roger Penske. It really could have been called anything. It could have been called a Kodak or a Bill Clinton or something. It was bought up by Mercedes. Now, of course, their reputation is linked forever with it, and it looks as if, at least at this point, as if they're making hay right now.
Sam, you notice they're giving little Al 32 seconds behind Emmo. But just so everybody knows, there really isn't anything he can do about that. Traffic is not hurting him right now. Emmo just gets through the turns better. Emmo is really looking good around the turn.
I think, too, Bobby, that Emmo's realizes he's got to make another stop and possibly a splash. So his big thing is he's going to go on it. He's got one lap to go before he's going to have to stop for fuel. We're going to see, hopefully, a good stop.
Here's Lynn St. James. She runs 19th. Well behind the lead of the race. In fact, 30 laps behind the lead. She had that very lengthy pit stop early on that dashed her hopes of any real success here at Indy. Emerson around Mauricio Gugelmin.
Emmo's light on fuel right now. He's just about out, so his car ought to be the quickest that it's going to be, too. Remember that.
We're now in those last 100 miles. Robbie Gordon, he runs in 4th place, 2 laps behind the lead. He's in for a stop, Jerry.
They have been battling a loose race car most of the day. They have finally gotten the car as neutral as they would like it. This will be a pure 4-tire stop, fill it for fuel, but they will have to come back in just like the Penske Mercedes for a splash and go with about 10 laps to go. Work completed. They fuel the car, drop the jacks, and he is away.
You also saw that he made that adjustment to the front wing. Looked like he took a turn out, Bobby. I'm not sure which way those turn on that car, but it looked like he took a little wing out.
Danny, I agree, and I really couldn't see his hand, but his arm looked like he turned him out.
Robbie Gordon adhering to the 100-mile-an-hour speed limit at the pits, which is the speed Emil must be doing as he comes in onto the pit road right now. They have to be doing 100 by the time they get to the pit entrance.
Very important stops.
So Fittipaldi, a crucial stop in the race, is in as the leader.
And remember, one of the untested parts of this car is the transmission, and they're starting to have a lot of use on that transmission now, Jack.
And Sam, we're watching to see if there are any changes being made from the handling standpoint. Doesn't look as if there are. Now remember, the big thing here is that they're going to take a full load of fuel. They need to take as much as they can because they want to stop and go next time around. 16.8. It won't be so slow the next time.
There's Al Unser Jr. down between the first and second turn as Emerson Fittipaldi on the pit road, and here he comes.
And everybody has to know these pit stops are not being called by Roger Penske, only Al. Each team has its own set of rules or ideas that they think are going to make their cars win.
And there's the differential between the two as Fittipaldi comes off of the second turn on the warm-up lane and back up to speed.
And remember, as we talked a little earlier to Big Al Unser, it's been 20 years since he won races back-to-back here at Indianapolis. No one has accomplished back-to-back victories since then. Emerson won last year. He's leading this race. Maybe he'll make history.
And remember, as we have 35 laps to go there, that the pit stops on whatever Villeneuve is doing is going to be the answer.
So Emerson Fittipaldi drops into second place as Al Unser Jr. takes the lead in the 31 car, but he is due for a stop as well. Look at his dad.
I tell you what, I think he wants to get out there and help him, doesn't he?
Absolutely. Villeneuve coming in on the next lap, we hear. So first, second, and third will all pit here. What's he doing?
He got his hand up. He had his hand up.
Maybe the radios aren't working.
I think that's the radio's not working, and he was signaling that he understands he's coming in next time. He was just waving an acknowledgement.
An understanding or a question, Danny?
Well, I would imagine it was an understanding, but you know, when you're tucked down in that car, your seat belts are tightened down, it's very difficult to get your hand up in there. It's probably not an easy signal to do, but he was probably giving him a thumbs up.
You know, I was going to ask you just that, Danny. What's it like to stick your hand up into the airstream at 200 miles an hour as Villeneuve comes in?
Well, it just about tries to jerk it off. If you put your hand out the window of a car, you know what it feels like. Try that at 230 miles an hour.
Here's Gary.
It's going to be very close. We just checked with the engineer, the man who calculates the fuel, Tony Sacali, as the Forsyth Green goes to work. What a day they've had. It'll take 33 laps on this tank of fuel, and he says it's going to be very, very close to make it to the finish. This is the team that won the Miller Pit Stop competition. We've got him away with a full load of fuel and 33 laps to go.
16.4 seconds, and the young rookie is out and back to racing.
And we've got Al Unser coming into the pits. We've got Al Jr. coming into the pits.
He gets his speed down under control, the second of the Penske cars.
And remember, gentlemen, we told you earlier in the race that he was having intermittent trouble with his radio, so he has to revert to hand signals. As our Buck and the crew, Jerry Breon, the rest of them waiting, as Al Sr. looks, and he points to let them know that he wants some turns taken out of the front wing. He says the car is a little bit loose, so let's look to see if they will make that adjustment. There we go, we've made the adjustment. They dropped the jack. They need to take the full load of 40 gallons of methanol. The vent man signals, and they are away in 17.3 seconds, and he stalls the car once again.
Okay, now here's what's happened. They actually put wing into the front end of little Al's car. So that means he's been pushing. They tightened the front end up. That was a fairly good adjustment that they made.
Bobby, I think that's the reason why he's been having trouble in traffic. He's got too much push. He gets in that air. It gets a little bit disturbed, takes it off the front, and he can't chase the throttle as early as he wants to and pass the cars. He needs a little bit more wing.
You got a glimpse there of Villeneuve as he dialed around on the outside.
Bobby, also, if we do our fuel calculations right, Al Jr. still has to make another. He still has to make another stop, doesn't he, for splash and a little splash of fuel.
Both little Al and Emil will definitely have to make another stop. It's so questionable with Villeneuve. That's going to be the story for the end of the race.
Well, let's go down into the pits and try and find out exactly what the calculations of the teams might be. We'll begin with Jack Arute, who feels, I think, the Penske cars are going to have to stop again.
Paul, not only are they going to have to stop again, they are going to maybe roll the dice, at least as is the case with Emerson Fittipaldi. They have been discussing on the radio with Emo as to whether he could go the distance with the same set of tires that he has on right now. The question was asked quite simply, can you do it with 6 laps? It was garbled, the answer back. They're discussing it right now. Let's check in with Gary Gerald.
Well, Bobby Rahal, a lap down to the leaders, has now moved up to 3rd on the pylon in the scoring. He's ready now for his final pit stop of the day, and we await with the team looking for the nose of the car. Now, Villeneuve's crew has already said they think it's going to be very, very dicey. We know they've got to go 33 laps. They need yellow to get a break. Here's Rahal now, and this Rahal-Hogan team that started so far back today from the 10th row, trying to make their mark. He came with Honda. He's here now in a Penske chassis with Ilmore power. He's been a dark horse. He still thinks he's in the hunt. They're getting all the fuel. And now Bobby Rahal is clear in 17.6 seconds.
So Bobby Rahal back into the fight at Indianapolis. 171 laps are complete and has the makings of an incredible finish in the 78 500. Back at Indianapolis is Emerson Fittipaldi, looking for 2 in a row in his third Indianapolis 500 win. The closing laps always tell the story at Indianapolis. In second place is Al Unser Jr. Jacques Villeneuve runs in third place. Robbie Gordon, and then Michael Andretti.
You know, Paul, something that I've noticed since Emerson's pit stop is this is the most I've ever seen him running down on the little rumble strips. I'm not so sure that this set of tires, the car is working quite as good as it was previously.
As we watch the line of the cars, there you saw Fittipaldi dropping way down onto the rumble strip, then conservative off the corner. His wife Teresa watches on, and it looks like he's adding almost a second a lap to his lead in this race, Danny.
Well, it appears that way. Now, maybe Penske's gone with the strategy for Little Al that if we back off just a little bit, we can go the distance there and make up that while Emerson makes his pit stop.
Danny, I don't think that's the way. I really just don't think Little Al is handling as good as Emo. But you watch Emo, he runs clear down almost to the grass. Sometimes when he goes by you, I can hear him going across the rumble strips. It sounds like a dull siren going. That means the track is slippery, but he's handling good and found the driest place to run.
His favorite word is beautiful, and things are certainly going beautifully for him right now.
He's driven a great race so far, but I tell you, the question that you all asked earlier on about Emerson, can you stay with that set of tires for that last 6 laps? They don't want to take a chance of changing 4 tires and cross-threading a nut or screwing it up in any possible way. They want to splash the fuel in and let him go.
So the run is static at the moment, but everything in Indianapolis tends to happen in the last 20 laps. We'll go away for these messages, and then we'll be back to run to the end. Indianapolis, just moments ago, Emerson Fittipaldi came up inside Al Unser Jr. and just blew him away. And now Fittipaldi is the sole occupant of the lead by a full lap, a full 2.5 miles.
And what this means, Paul, is that the most Emo would lose like on a real quick splash stop is about a half a lap. So Emo's in the best position.
Yeah, but look at this, Bobby. Look at this. Here's Little Al and Emerson. The Penske car is drag racing into the corner.
And remember what happened here in 1989 when Emerson had been leading and Al came up from behind. They touched with a lap and a quarter to go over in turn 3. And after that big accident, which put Al into the wall and Emerson into victory circle, Little Al came out and gave Emerson a big thumbs up. He bore him no ill will for what happened. And now they're teammates, and I think that cementing of that relationship then is key to what's happening right now.
Sam,
18 laps to go.
He certainly woke him up. That's for certain sure. You can see that.
Yeah, but Bobby, I think that's great racing, and that shows the competitiveness of Little Al. He knows that the only chance he stands is he's got to stay on that lead lap. He cannot go a lap down.
You know, to these drivers, winning is really the only thing.
Bobby, they only would put one person on that winner's podium.
What's the strategy now? Let's go to Jack.
Well, Paul, it's beginning to develop. There's a set of computers in both pits. They can read each other's vital information. This is Emerson Fittipaldi's computer. They know that Little Al could maybe stretch the fuel mileage if he conserves fuel. The window's about 2 laps. For Emerson Fittipaldi, this will be the most important device all day. This is the stick that they'll tap the fuel man with as they take their time stop about lap 194. This is the stick right here, gentlemen.
Well, of course, if Little Al was conserving fuel, Jack, he should be drafting Emerson Fittipaldi, not leading him.
But Sam, the idea there is...
Oh, that's Emerson.
Yellow comes out.
That's Emerson.
And I just started to say, the problem is he can't afford to be down a lap and have something like this happen. He's got to be ahead, and that's the way it turned out.
As we suggested, within the last 20 laps, the last 50 miles, and Emerson Fittipaldi brushes the wall on lap 184.
You should hear the crowd.
I think he really had a puncture in the tire, something that happened really quick because you could watch him feeding that front end to it. So he obviously felt something very sudden.
The 6th yellow of the day for the leader of the race. In that instant, Emerson Fittipaldi's $1 million and 3rd Indy win go out the window. There's Fittipaldi. He walks back now after lap at 200 miles an hour. Teresa already heading back toward the garage area. She's only worried about her husband. Arie Luyendyk pulls to the inside. He's apparently out of the race. Indication is the motor's gone on Luyendyk's car.
Roger Penske's last 4 wins have come with 4 different drivers, starting with you, Danny, then Rick, then Big Al, then Emerson. This would be a 5th.
You know that little Al's work. He's nervous right now. Can you imagine the butterflies inside of him, Bobby, right now? He's going to let that pace car get out. He's not going to let anybody jump him on this restart. He's going to come slow down the back straightaway and start building it up through 3 and 4. When he comes off 4, he's going to be on the gas.
And he also knows that nobody can get a swing at him there.
That's right.
Take a look back there. There's 2nd place.
He's already on it, but the pace car is still on the track coming through 4. Now the pace car is coming off. He is on it.
This is where the advantage of being out front is so great because he's got his momentum and it's his race to win now.
As they cross the line, 10 laps to go in the Indianapolis 500. The focus is on car 12.
Now Little Al will get a little bit of a lead, and then he'll start easing off some more. He's got to have all the guarantees, like Danny said, that he can have.
Little Al pulls away, but what about Villeneuve? What is he doing? Can he get around those cars in front of him? Look up the track. There he is. There's the distance. They're 3 abreast in front of him.
But don't forget one thing. He's the 5th car back. There he is right there going through the corner. But remember one thing. Barry Green is pleased with that 1st in class, that 2nd place. I know they want to win it, but they're not going to throw away that 2nd place on some stupid move trying to get by a slower car.
And also keep in mind that he's in the like type of an engine, the Ford Cosworth. He can't just whip out and pass him like the Mercedes can.
9 laps to go. Al Unser Jr. a straightaway over Jacques.
Bobby, I know you said that Al will start easing it back, but I remember when I was in the same situation and I was so nervous and my leg was shaking. The only way to keep it from shaking that much was to hold it down. I run my fastest lap on the last lap of the race.
We also saw you spinning win it, Danny, so.
We see Shelley Unser, Al's wife there. You know, Al is in his 12th Indianapolis, but he's only 32 years old. This could very well be the next 4 or 5-time winner here at the Speedway.
Well, Sam, you're not only right there, but also that he has just joined the Penske team. They've got a great record here. He's a young man. He'll be with Penske for a lot of years, and he's got a lot of bright future in front of him in terms of winning the Indianapolis 500.
You saw it, the leader of the race by 9.5 seconds. Again, we look from the leader. Look back for that blue and white car. He still has a great deal of distance to make up. There he is. It doesn't appear that he's making up much at all.
Well, I doubt that he's really trying very hard. He knows that the pass with an engine like he's got is just not an easy one, whereas Little Al is just in clean air and running away from it. So he's probably going to try to guarantee 2nd place.
Does the strategy, Bobby, to be let's drive for 2nd place and see whether or not Little Al can finish?
Yes, because Little Al could run out of fuel. He could still blow an engine. He could have transmission problems. Remember all the debris we've had trouble with on the track all day. So he's better off to gamble like he is, believe me.
By this time, the drivers will have sweated off 6 to 8 pounds or even more in some cases, but with the end of the race so close in sight, this is when the adrenaline takes over and carries you to the finish.
Little Al is running a very conservative. You notice he's not running away from those 3 cars behind him. He's just going to pace himself. He doesn't even want to catch the traffic. He doesn't want to have to deal with traffic.
You look up to the end of the main straightaway off at turn 4, and you look for Villeneuve. There he is. Now he's fallen even further behind. He's not driving for catch-up now. He's driving to stay in 2nd. The race may belong to Al Unser Jr.
I compared Jacques Villeneuve to Mario Andretti, who of course finished 3rd in his rookie year. Jack appears to be en route to second. A new star is born, I would say.
The last couple of laps, he's lost 10 seconds. He's 20 seconds behind the lead of the race, and the leader is car 31.
And you've got to take your hat off to that. That's a good decision, Paul.
Don't forget the famous Granatelli turbine, 67 and 68, failing in the last lap.
Bobby, of course, that's a very good approach and a very conservative approach, but it also takes the heat off of Al Jr. He can then pace himself down. It doesn't put any pressure on him to maybe run it a little stronger and put him in a fuel situation.
Yeah, Danny, because in the real life, if he actually caught Little Al, he couldn't do anything with him. He couldn't pass him. He has to run him out of fuel or has to break, or Little Al has to break something. Otherwise, he's in problems.
That's right, and I also don't think that he could get by enough of those cars in the laps remaining without taking some fairly serious chances.
The talk before the race was all of the risk that Roger Penske was taking running these new engines. Obviously, he had strength in numbers and needed it, but so far one of them has made its way through.
196 laps are complete. This race is definitely not over, but it's looking good for Little Al as he pulls a visor off to get a clear view. One of those tearaways on the front of his helmet. Last
just
pole
to
winner, by the
clarify,
way, was Rick Mears in 1991. The last time car 31 started on the pole was 1919. If he wins it, it will be the first win ever by a car numbered 31.
We have a yellow. We have
got another yellow.
And Fox.
Now watch for Little Al. Let's make sure he gets through clearly and there's no debris problems.
Remember, he has no radio. Penske cannot radio him on this, so he has to go by the yellow lights on the track.
Yeah, but don't forget now, it looks like this race will probably end under a yellow because I don't see him getting that cleaned up with just a couple laps to go, and he's going to be very conservative here.
I don't know, Danny. Sometimes these crews will get that debris off real quickly. Little Al motors through.
Look how slow he came through there, Paul. He was really, really looking for debris on the car.
And Big Al can barely stand it. But Penske is concerned, does this give a chance for Villeneuve to close up again?
Well, he was losing ground, so I don't believe that he'll have moved up any cars.
The incident, of course, is Stan Fox. We may not have mentioned that to you.
Stan Fox was racing in the top 10, Paul. It's a real shame for him. He's done so well all month and has soldiered through the race.
So Stan Fox against the wall, bringing out the yellow. 197 laps complete, Jerry Punch.
Emerson Fittipaldi just walking out of the Care Center. First of all, MR, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I mean, that was a shame. The car was flying, and I just hit the apron. I would say about the feet too much on the inside. I got that. I made the back end, lost it. I nearly correct, and then I hit the wall coming out. It was a shame. But, you know, Junior's going to win. That'll be fantastic for the team.
A big smile, though, with the Mercedes-Benz engine performance today.
Oh, it was beautiful. I mean, we were really flying. It was a shame what happened. We should be 1 and 2.
Emerson Fittipaldi's okay, a little disappointed, wanted that win number 3.
I think that smile is hiding a lot of pain. The pylon, brand new pylon, by the way, here at the Speedway, showing 197 laps complete. When they cross the line behind the pace car, 2 laps to the end of the race. Will they get the debris cleared off? Little Al's not going to take any chance whatsoever. He's moving back and forth, and there, the blue and white car, number 12, that is Villeneuve. You see him there?
Number 12.
And the idea of the whipping back and forth, Paul, is to make sure they have a little tiny pickup tank for the engine inside the main fuel tank. So he's whipping it back and forth to make sure that it keeps the fuel in there. Because when they're running slow, it's not the same as when you're running fast with a fuel tank.
And one other concern, Paul and Bobby, is that when you're running this slow, you'll see the pace car now is really slowed down from its 80 miles an hour to try to get one more lap to be green because they want to finish under a green. That's always a problem with a car. It's been running 500 miles all day long. It's hot. You don't want to go too slow.
They're trying to get Stan Fox's car off as fast as they can, trying to get the last lap, the white flag lap, run under green. They're working the 198th lap. Of course, that there is communications with the pace car. You're looking back from it now with Al Unser Jr. steadily driving down the backstretch, locked straight ahead.
I think Al figures he has to drive one more racing lap.
They are going to try and go green for the white flag lap. Dwayne Sweeney has the white flag in his hand. Al Unser Jr. closes up on the pace car. 1 lap to win the Indianapolis 500. what will become the most important lap of his life.
They, of course, still have the flashing lights on in the pace car, so they're going to go around one more time.
We'll see whether or not that's true. There was an indication they were going to radio the pace car from the control center to get off the track and take it green.
The rules say the pace car has to have the lights off before they come green to warn the drivers. And obviously, there was a little bit of communication problem among the officials there.
And Bobby, also, they have to do it before they get into turn 3. Otherwise, they would have a major incident possibly over here in turn 4.
So this is it.
So barring some remarkable occurrence now, Al Unser Jr. will win the 78th running of the Indianapolis 500. He has 2.5 miles to go. The final lap will occur under the yellow flag. The rules don't permit them to turn the yellow on somewhere around the track. But Big Al and Roger Penske both know it's not really over until he crosses that final line, as trite as it may sound.
And Paul,
that driver in that cockpit has to be listening to the car, has to be making sure that even at 80 miles an hour, I can make it, right, Bobby?
Yes, that's for certain, sure. You know, even as the white flag came out, the people down here just roaring. Down here now, when they come by, the people are clapping. They're all standing up. Everybody is screaming. So obviously, they're very happy.
And Bobby, one of
the second turn. Go ahead, Danny. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Paul. One of the things here, this has got to be the longest lap in history for him. He just wants it to be over, and he'd much prefer to do it at 220 miles an hour.
Little Al's mom heading for winner's circle. A brand new winner's circle, by the way, at the Speedway here this year. Little Al's going to get to christen it. It truly is a circle right in front of the master control tower.
I think all month of Little Al driving this big old thing called a Hummer, a big Jeep back and forth around the Speedway with a big grin on his face ever since he won the pole position. It has been his month of May at Indianapolis.
Well, of course, the same thing's happening down here in turn 4. They are all waving hats, cheering, going crazy, and Little Al is not about to put that hand up until he crosses that start-finish line.
History in the making. Car 31. That number scoring its first win, and Mercedes-Benz in its very first race in the Indy cars in modern times wins the Indianapolis 500 as a brand new engine. Al Unser Jr. takes his second Indianapolis 500 and his dad's crying.
Well, he's got reason to cry, Paul.
Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Roger Penske getting congratulated all around. The Mercedes, your 10th win at Indy. What are your emotions?
Well, it's just fantastic. You know, the team, this guy Unser is just the greatest. He stayed there all day. His dad and I talked to him this morning. He said, Al, you win this race at the end. And he did a great job. Credit to the guys. This engine, fantastic. Great for Mercedes, for Marlboro, Mobil, and all our sponsors. I'm just thrilled.
I guess the only disappointment is Mo in the Waller. It might have been 1-2.
Well, yeah, understanding. But, you know, we got to get one, and then we were worrying about the second one. So unbelievable. Thanks.
Congratulations, Roger.
So Roger Penske and Al Unser Jr. win the Indianapolis 500. We'll return with more after this message and a word from our ABC stations.
Very special presentation with the president of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Mr. Tony George. Tony?
Al, congratulations on winning the 78th run of the Indianapolis 500. I'd like to present you with the Borg-Warner wreath signifying your accomplishments. Congratulations. Job well done.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is official. Al Jr. has taken the swig of milk. He's got the Borg-Warner trophy. And Al, the congratulations to his dad.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
It's his 55th birthday, ladies and gentlemen, and you couldn't get a better gift than that, Al, could you? You couldn't get a better gift than that.
No, you sure can't. This is one I'll never forget.
I've never seen tears in Al Sr., but he has them now. Let's talk about this race, man. It was incredible. You had no radio, or was it a difficult time? Did it come in and out?
Well, no, we didn't have a radio for about, I don't know, 120 laps on or something. But, you know, I just want to thank the whole Marlboro team, Penske. They did a super job preparing the car, obviously, and it went the distance. Thank you to Mercedes-Benz. You know, they made it easy to pass everybody down the straightaway. And you know, Goodyear tire, you know, we were running pretty high temps most of the month, and Leo Mel and the boys really built me a great tire, so I want to thank them. And, you know, Mobil Oil, you know, that was really good. And
let's talk about the start, though, real quickly. That was pretty spectacular, that first lap.
Well, the start was good. You know, we came down, and I wanted to lead the first lap, and so we did. And then, you know, my first pit stop, we wanted to be easy on the clutch, and we were too easy. I ended up stalling it, and I told Roger, I said, you know, I got to leave the way we need to leave. And then that was it. And, you know, last off, I want to say happy birthday, Dad.
This is a very special time for you because earlier today, your father took his last laps around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Unfortunately, because you had won the pole position and had other commitments, you couldn't come out to the line and see it. What a gift.
Yeah. Well, you know, I want to thank this Marlboro Team Penske, I tell you. Roger, special thanks, I tell you, you know, he loves this place as much as I do, and it shows, you know. He brought us a special car and all that, and I just want to thank all the people out there. You know, without you, this place wouldn't be what it is, and so we love you very much.
And, of course, your teammate, Emerson Fittipaldi. What happened in that situation?
Well, with Emerson, you know, we got caught in traffic, and what enabled him to actually pass me was the same thing that bit him. As soon as you got offline just a little bit in turn 4, or any of them really, the air would put you offline because you don't have any downforce on it when you're behind another car. And then if you got out there too far, then it just sucked you out there like a vacuum cleaner. And I got on the brakes. I almost hit the wall in turn 4. The lap Emerson passed me. That's what enabled him to get the run on me. And then, you know, we were trying extremely hard to get through traffic. He was trying extremely hard to get me a lap down. And so, you know, he got out there too far, and the old vacuum cleaner got him.
For all of you participating in the Valvoline Indy 500 giveaway, here are the final winners who correctly identified the race leaders. At the 50-lap interval, it was James Tourville of Suffield, Connecticut. At the 100-lap interval, it was Dwight Lee Birmingham of Grosse Pointe, Michigan. And at the 150-lap interval, it was Jeff Cottonbrook of Somerton, Arizona. Thank you all for participating in the contest and watching the Indy 500 on ABC.
The view from the Goodyear Blimp Spirit as it now records the giant crowd leaving the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but dreaming of next year and what will come. Stan Fox, by the way, has been transported to Methodist Hospital of Indiana. He is in good condition, but they are concerned about some back pain. So the race is over, and Bobby Unser, the family's done it again.
Oh, the weather was beautiful. It was an exciting race, and I'm one happy announcer.
Danny Sullivan, a great job from the top of turn 4. Any thoughts?
Well, just a great job by Al Jr. and all the Penske team, as we expected. And I'd like to say a special thanks to everybody on the ABC team for helping me through my first one.
And Sam Posey.
Well, in all the years since 1911 and the first race here, no team was ever able to really dominate this place or become a favorite. Now Roger Penske has won 9 of the last 16 Indy 500s and becomes a dominant force in this race's history.
So Al Unser Jr. in the Mustang pace car with his dad and family on board celebrates his second Indy 500 win. Car 31 wins for the first time, and Roger Penske a record 10 wins now at Indianapolis now. A special thanks to our ABC crew. They have done a remarkable job once again helping us bring you these fine pictures of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. And so now a victory lap of the track so much slower than ever before as Al Unser Jr. acknowledges the cheers of the crowd. Look at him stand there and cheer on this great champion. How many more Indy wins are in the book for Al Unser?
A promotional